Hello, everybody.
Hey, Jim. Probably by the time Kim comes back, Anasha will be on. To city staff that's in the conference room, are we starting with general services residential pickup? Is that correct?
Yes, we'll probably start on page 188 on the book.
Yes, exactly. Okay, since we don't have a flag available, I'll make a motion that we dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance and get right into the meeting.
Chair, I have a flag.
All right, please display the flag, Jim. Jim, do you want to lead us? Oh, you're muted.
You're moving too quick for me, Ken. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jim, for having the flag available for us. Kim must have went on a nice treasure hunt in her house with no flag available.
In the garage.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to call to order our general services meeting in Anasha's absence, and he should join us within a couple minutes. First, we'll take attendance for the meeting. Members of the General Services Committee, Council Member Gully.
I am here.
Council Member Ash McPherson.
Present.
Council Member Steele.
Present.
The chair, Council Member Cummings, not present at the start, but hopefully will be here. And Council Member McDermott.
Here.
Okay, so we have 4 present.
Hello.
Oh, and I'm sorry, you joined us, Council President Mantello, ex officio. And I have no idea why I'm even doing this because I'm not even on the committee. But here we go.
Actually, somebody from the committee should be doing it.
Yeah, technically, I guess.
Per the charter and the rules. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So whoever else is on the committee really, I mean, should be running it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to hand it off to the administration now anyway, but if who wants to volunteer to chair until Anasha's here?
I don't have enough of a voice to be able to do it.
Jim, you
I
look
can
like
do
you
it.
want.
Listen,
Go ahead.
I apologize. I couldn't get my mute button off. This is really, my computer is either against me or for me. I can't figure it out. I'll tell you by the end of the meeting, but okay, I will chair the meeting.
Actually, between all of our flag
Here he is
searching,
now.
flag searching and sharing issues, we do have the actual chair of the committee has now joined us. So good timing, Anasha. Anasha, we've already done the Pledge of Allegiance. We've taken roll, and everyone's here now on the committee. And I guess I'll just mention also Councilmember Zalewski, myself, is here, not a member of the committee. Okay, and we're on page 188, Anasha.
And can I just ask, Andy and Monica, can you just make sure to introduce everybody for the record when they speak? Thank you.
Certainly, I just asked Chuck to do that.
Good evening, council members. My name is Chuck Wade. I'm the Commissioner of General Services for the City of Troy. With us, we have Tom Abbott, Supervisor of Sanitation, Renee Panetta, Special Recycling Coordinator. I don't know if you want to go with you.
Andy, the mayor, and Monica are here as well.
Great. Thank you all for joining us. Who wants to take the lead on the overview? Over there.
Well, I could.
We're gonna have Tom start and then Renee jump in as well.
So how you guys doing tonight? Tom Abbott's sanitation supervisor of the city of Troy. Just a quick overview. This is a perfect time to do this with members of the administration and also city council members to kind of go over things about how our 2020 year has been, or 2021 year has been. So a quick overview in our excesses for 2021. Can everybody see me okay? Was minimal disruptions with garbage and recycling collections. Everything basically, day-to-day operations is current and active. There's really been no issues aside from truck failures, maintenance problems. We've been able to still compensate for that. We had a great first peak season of lawn bag collection, which ran from May to July, and we still collected leaf bags all year with daily sanitation operation schedules. Bulk collection is also active, and all bulk slips are caught up and current with both residential call-ins and litter enforcement violations. LP 100s, also known as TP 100s for police call-ins, in regards to illegal dumping, are at 1 to 2 a week as opposed to when the program took off, which was approximately 10 to 15 weekly. Due to litter enforcement being notified to look into the material and found evidence of who owned the material, and the violation was sent out to that person with the assistance of the police and City View. The recycling facility, AKA the Alamo, is well maintained multiple times a week by sanitation personnel. Right now, we have it staffed Thursday only, 9 to 1, for public drop-off of bag leaves, brush, and mulch pickup. I would like it staffed including additional days in 2022 for more frequent residential drop-offs at this location. So throughout the year, we had a couple challenges. 2020 was different because we had a lot of COVID issues, which created a lot of overtime. We saw a little bit of COVID throughout the beginning of the year. Chuck and I had gone over employees that have expelled COVID time. So this is a perfect example of myself being the supervisor, and I guess us now staying on top of this, where some of the employees are vaccinated and some are not. Unfortunately, even some of the unvaccinated employees have expelled their COVID time, so they're either into their own time or if it's a negative test, they're back to work with a mask on. And also precautionary to that, they're with other vaccinated individuals for 1 to 2 weeks. So at this point, even though the COVID is still a problem, right now we have the advantage. So that's where we're at with that. Another shortfall is completing leaf bag collection, as we are down 3 personnel, which I know you're all aware of, which that's essentially our leaf collection truck, 3 people. Other departments have assisted us with leaf bag collection, and it has been helpful, but not sustainable. Can't continue. That's why, as we have discussed things in the budget, I did include 2 additional laborers be added to the sanitation 2022 budget, I'm sorry. That would help us with our goal of completion. It would also help us with personnel at the Alamo, at the recycling facility, also known as the Alamo. Another problem that we had was this year, commercial vehicle breakdowns. We have a truck right now, a rear load truck, that is 21 years old. We also have another one that's 19 years old. These 2 trucks are presently used for recycling because we cannot put the maximum capacity of garbage on them. request for those two new sanitation vehicles laid out in the capital plan would reduce repair expenditures and downtime as these trucks are out of service. When they're out of service, we have to revert to regular pickup trucks to collect the material. This is not efficient or cost effective. And so that's where I'm at operationally. Recycling needs are met, sanitation, garbage needs are met. Over the course of 2 or 3 years, about this time, I had a couple hundred complaints regarding leaf bags. Right now, I'm up to 6. Some of them are from the same people, so the results are there. We are trying, but it's not perfect. So at that point, does anybody have any questions about operations before I pass this off to Renee?
Chair.
Yes, Councilman Gully.
Tom, thank you for the report tonight. Can I ask you a couple questions?
Absolutely.
I know we've had conversations on this, and I have with others. What type of average call-in rate do you have in your department, and how many guys do you not have working for you that are on a department list?
So do you mean employees that call in sick?
Yeah,
Or
sick.
is that what you mean? Okay, so there's not that many employees that call in sick. It's a big department. Employees are allowed to build up their sick time. It's called accrual time. So employees are allowed to build that up. Accrual time builds up once a month. My standpoint with our union contract is, while employees are going to get sick, on their 3rd day of absence, at that point they have to provide a doctor's note to the city, well, to me, to produce to the city, to cover the days that they had off and also any future sick time that they're going to use. If they don't produce that note, yeah.
Tom, I understand that. I mean, it isn't about them, what the rules are with them. It's how does it affect your operation when you lose a driver?
Oh, if somebody calls, I mean, if there's most, right now, if there's on a rear load truck, there's 3 guys. So if, right now being down for instance, 1 laborer right now, if 2 additional laborers call in, a route is gonna go down. That means that all trucks have to go out and do their run, and then every truck has to contribute to, the collection of this run that was not able to go out because we're down, laborers. That doesn't happen much. I mean, we have a pretty good staffing right now. Over the course of the year, I did have to go through some interdepartmental procedures to kind of get rid of some people that were calling in a lot. Of course, when you're doing a proper procedure, there's a protocol. So even though that employee may be written up or how can I put this? Counseled, right? They're still on the clock. They're still presently working here. So that may happen once or twice. And like I said, Jim, there's a procedure, and then that turns into a suspension, possibly another suspension, and then a termination. We've dealt with that a few times already. So that's in the past, I hope. Right now, what we brought to the sanitation department is a really good staff. I can honestly say it's a totally changed atmosphere. It's not the normal sanitation department that we remember. I'm really glad to be part of this because and be able to, I guess, have a good eye for a good worker and bring them into the department. Vetting process. And there's also a vetting process, which gives us the opportunity to see how they work, make sure they're going to show up, that they're capable to do the job. They're on probation for a year, so that gives us a year to vet that person, that employee. Right now, I can honestly say we are down a few guys. Two of the gentlemen are out on a medical. One gentleman is out on a workers' comp. So like I said, that equals a truck, and if I had those people back, we would be able to at least run normal operations. But with the two added laborers proposed in the budget, I'd be so much further ahead of the game because I'd be able to, have leaf collection done more adequately.
If someone calls in sick.
Yeah.
I got it.
Staff the recycling facility more often. Thursday 9 to 1 is a great start, but that Thursday 9 to 1, there's so many people that are coming down there they're using it, right? It's a public drop-off point. It's a really great addition to the department, and it also brings questions from the residents that say, hey, Tom, I'm not going to be able to come down there next Thursday. Is there anything I can do? Unfortunately, I don't have the capacity or the manpower to staff the recycling facility more right now. But this will hopefully open up the doors so those laborers are added.
So just for conversation, what have you done in the past? Like when you're down this type of manpower, 3 guys is a truck. Do we have ability to draw laborers from other departments to fill that gap? Or do you guys how do you manage that in your department to make sure we get efficiency out of the sanitation department?
Well, I can honestly tell you that the sanitation department every day is structured differently. I tried to go in and save a little bit of time and restructure how it's going to be for tomorrow to maybe save me a little paperwork or 20 minutes in the morning. It's never like that because of maybe somebody is going to call in, or maybe there's a guy out on the roster, right, on a vacation week. So while I try to prepare for this every day, I can honestly tell you that every day is different. So how we prepare for that right now is help from the streets department. They're sending over part-time personnel to assist us in garbage and leaf collection with laborers right now. And right now it's 2 laborers, which is exactly what we need to continue operations within our department.
That means we're not able to be out there filling potholes.
Well, that's the thing. Now, what happens is that department now lacks workers because they may be getting have requests to fill potholes or do street-related work, right? And now they can't do that because I have their personnel. That's not fair to them. As we know, in my opinion, garbage and recycling do come first because if we miss a day of garbage and recycling collection, it takes the rest of the week to get caught up.
Tom, I absolutely agree with you that sanitation should come first. I know we have to fill the potholes. I know we have to do a lot of different things, but sanitation in our city should be a primary health and respect issue that we put as the number one thing we need to take care of right after our public safety for the citizens here. So I agree with that. I'm just trying to figure out, is 2 employees really enough to give you enough power? And should we look at maybe some other options, like maybe some sort of, maybe the union leaders get together and they create, like when I was in a union before, the drivers union, and I was a part-time worker for 5 years. I was an on-call worker, but they paid me great money back then to keep me on that list until I got a permanent job with the union and I paid my union dues. Is there any option that we could look at maybe as we move forward with the unions that we could create some type of pool of, just a labor pool, because you couldn't have any type of categorize or well, you could, but I would just, for now, I'm just thinking maybe work with a company to have a labor pool that would help to take up the slack when you guys are down, so we keep all of our operations moving smoothly. But I don't know if that's possible in the bureaucratic system. I just know that it's possible in the regular corporate world,
Yeah. Well, I mean, how we're able to juggle right now is if I'm down a certain amount of personnel, I at that point have to make a decision on what's going to be down. Is it going to be a garbage truck, or am I going to be taking laborers from a recycling truck to put over on garbage, and recycling is going to suffer that day, and that truck will have to double up. So that's the best scenario that I use right now. is downing a recycling truck first because garbage takes precedence over, recycling. And then we trickle into bag, leaves, and brush. So that's the way the system is now. I don't really know too much about how the union would handle bringing in people that don't necessarily work for the city of Troy. I don't know how, I can't answer that question. I just know that 2 additional laborers, and also, I really don't know what's going on with the labor that's out on the workers' comp right now, but at some point in life, either he's gonna come back to work or that position is gonna be filled by a capable body. And then, I'll have a pretty decent roster as far as, in-house and also the completion of the work that we need done out there.
All right, thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. And
You're welcome.
I appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Councilman Ashton Christen.
Tom, how are you? I'm just a little
Good, how you doing,
confused.
Paul?
Good. I'm just a little confused on what you were saying. I'm just going to start off from the beginner. What is the procedure for your sanitation? How many people do you have in sanitation total?
Laborers, drivers, and litter patrol officers?
I have it. 27, 31. 31.
I want to know your sanitation because you keep on talking about your sanitation, that you don't have enough
Yeah, we're
guys.
getting it.
I'm just clarifying what I'm looking for. You keep on saying you don't
Okay.
have enough guys in sanitation. And at one point you said you don't get many call-in, and the next thing you said you do get call-ins. And so when you're short, you're taken from another department. So I'm confused on where you're
Right.
going.
Well, right now, I'm down three people that are out of work, 2 on medical, and 1 on a workers' comp case.
So
So
you're
there's
down
3.
3 people in your sanitation.
On the regular.
Every day. On top of,
They're employed, but they're not working because they're out on workers' comp or disability.
right, they still hold a job here, but they're out on a,
I get that.
medical-
So I'm trying to ask, how many people do you have in your sanitation department? 27, you have 3 down. So you have 24 people to do the job, correct?
yeah.
So budgeted in the 2022 budget, including the 2 new sanitation persons, there are 31 titles that make those titles. What I did not include in that was staff in City Hall and the litter enforcement officers. So the 31 is representative of
How many-
sanitation persons, MEO lights.
I want to know specifically how many sanitation we have.
Well,
Sanitation-
labor,
31.
How many?
he said 31, but it's chopped up. Is it 31 laborers?
Do you want it by title? I have it.
What, so do you want it for the residential pickup? I guess, Kim, you got it. The problem is that it's, are you talking about the guys that are on the truck? Or are you looking for the whole team? Because Rusty and Tom are included in those counts. You're muted.
You're on mute.
You're muted. You're muted.
I want to know how many people are in sanitation picking up the garbage. Residential.
Because you want laborers.
You want
Laborers.
drivers and laborers.
In the residential department,
Yep.
Yeah.
there is 1 general 4-person, 6 laborers, 1 MEO heavy.
Okay. Your 6 laborers.
I have more for it.
Six-
There's a
Seven.
handout on page 199 of the budget. If you want to go to that, it overviews all of the titles in residential pickup.
What I'm trying to understand, Tom, is you were saying that you keep on going back, you need two more people to pick up the slack. And I'm trying to figure out where they're picking up the slack that you're losing.
Well, they're picking up the slack of the person, for instance, and just in the laborer category. They're picking up the slack of the person that's out on workers' comp right now, right? And then they're also picking up the slack of a potential call-in sick, and they're also picking up the slack of an employee that's out on vacation. Because even though operationally, we have to have the garbage picked up. Employees still have the right to use their accrual time. And some of these guys hit at a max at 580 hours, and they want a week off, which we go through that roster in January, and give them a sheet to fill out. So most of their vacation time is scheduled off, but there is sick time, and then a few times this year we have a bereavement that's 5 days. Sometimes that's extended, depending on how the employee feels about coming back. So there's a lot of factors that play in your question. The 2 additional laborers that I'm requesting, they are going to be picking up garbage. They're going to be picking up recycling. They're going to be picking up compostable material, bag leaves, and working physically at the recycling facility.
Okay.
I don't have enough capacity right now to do all of that with.
So just, let me just, Chuck, jump in for a second.
Just real quick, Kim, I think what you're saying, bottom line, every day there's been at least 3 employees out under the workers' comp or medical. Outside of that, what really starts to jam us up is when somebody calls in sick or they have a scheduled vacation day. That's where we start having to make up for those employees being out. It is stretched pretty thin, so if 2 people call in sick, that's basically almost downing a route for the most part, unless we can get other employees from other departments in.
But in addition.
Does that answer your question?
But the new employees that he's asking for are also being utilized for the new programs and the new facilities that they're looking to put together, like making the Alamo open and more accessible. You need bodies in order to do that. We can't take the people that are off the streets and put them at the Alamo, because then we lose people on the streets. So being able to add the MEO light and the laborer, right? That's what we added.
2 laborers.
2 laborers. That enables us to be able to put those guys down, or those people down at the resource facility, to be able to manage that inflow of materials there as well without taking them off the street. So it's being able to supplement what we already have with the new programs. Better plan. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk a lot. I know that's odd, but I'm just coming off of tonsillitis, so.
Okay, did that
All right, Renee.
answer your question, Kim?
Well,
Okay,
Kim's question, Chair.
yeah, Councilman Gully.
Yeah, that's who I am. Hey, listen, that's why I brought that point up earlier. I don't know what's possible, but I hope that we can move in discussions to see if there's some way to create just a labor pool that might be able to be useful to the city and to the operation of the city to provide better coverage for the residents. And I don't know if it's possible, but sure would be a good thing to look at this point, because all departments are telling me the same thing. We need to figure out how to fix that fix, you know? All right, well, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks,
You're
Jim.
welcome.
All right.
I guess,
Anash, I think Renee wants to give an overview on some of the new programs for this year.
okay, I want to drill down into this labor pool concept for a second before we move on. Initially, when you mentioned that, Councilman Gully, I had thought you were talking about some kind of a temp position. You're talking about a title in the budget that is, you know, they're hired year round, but they can move around between departments as needed. Is that the idea?
No, not actually. What we did, there was 7 of us on a list for a liquor house down in Albany. And when they had a driver that didn't come in, we all had our license. You know, I had to have some qualifications, but just laborers. We just went in, and some of us had license. We could drive a truck. Whoever didn't, we worked in warehouse, but we didn't work a full week. They might have needed us on a Tuesday. They might need us on a Thursday, but we got the pay plus a little incentive to be part-time, so that and then we would have, you know, this way you can also look at your employees, see who you're getting, get a good taste after 90 days of service to see who you're really getting. And then it would allow you to hire somebody full-time when a position comes up, and you'd already have them trained and ready to fit into the program. They'd know the protocol, they'd know the rules, and it was a great breeder for the alcohol industry, the liquor industry. I don't know if it's possible in
Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty similar to what we do in the streets department, where we have temporary salaries that are used to fill in with temporary positions. I don't know, Andy or Tom, can either of you speak to?
Well, can I just say one thing, Chair?
Yeah.
This was just a thought. I really don't want to get into a full blown out discussion now because we're talking about the budget. What I would really like to do is just continue with the budget conversation and then we can, if everybody feels, and if the corporate council feels that this is some sort of possibility, and we'll have a meeting on that later. But I think right now, in the essence of time, we should just keep to what we're here for.
Okay, but I mean, I do
And
notice.
I'll certainly look into it. I don't know if that crosses a union issue threshold or not.
So we'll talk to Rick about it. We'll talk to Rick about it, Jim, just to see if it's an option. And then Andy said he'll follow up with you on Friday.
Yeah, and also you'd have to talk with the union leaders and just say, hey, this is just a benefit because it gives them more members that can grow in the union. They'd have to join the union, and they'd be a part-time city employee. They'd be hired by the city of Troy. And we didn't get any benefits or anything at that point because we were part-time, but we worked for it. Like I said, they gave us an incentive bump to work. And there's guys out there that are looking to put their feet in place here. We just got to maybe give them an opportunity, and this would be a great way to introduce more people beforehand, so you can see what you're getting, and they can see what they're getting before we put them into a full-time employment situation. And thank you for thinking about it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so looking at the budget line item 102, temporary salaries, prior year encumbrance was $20,000. Current budget's 15, but it's zeroed out for the 2022 budget. Was that used for that sort of thing, or was that used for something entirely different?
Chair, what page?
Page 197.
Okay.
Under residential pickup, you've got temporary salaries. We did have some funding in there in previous years, but it's zeroed out this year. What was that used for in previous years?
As a matter of fact, we did hire temporary employees that year.
Last year.
Last year. We actually hired 2 temporary employees, and how that worked out was those 2 temporary employees became full-time employees because 2 full-time employees retired. So they got right into a full-time position.
Great. So, I mean, that seems like that's exactly what we're talking about in terms of having that ramp where you're vetting people. You have maybe somewhat of a more flexible schedule with how you schedule those people. They're able to back you up for starters, and then if they're good, they move into a full-time position. It seems like it certainly has benefited the streets department. It seems like it might benefit you to grow that program as well. And I guess that's as much as we need to talk about it today, but certainly I'd like to see you guys go back and discuss a little bit more. Councilmember.
I would say that just to follow up on the temporary and the part-time salaries, I do know, and I can't, because I can never remember, there's some certain, and I think we ran into this in the clerk's office when we were looking at the part-time versus the temporary, just making sure we get clarity. And I think that's part of the challenge, is they can only keep them for X amount of time, and they want them for a longer time, so therefore then they have to go into actually being on the test and being declared testable. So there's a lot of pieces on that. So I like to utilize, just like Joe talked about with streets, I like utilizing the part-time to be able to feel people out. But with the civil service law, it creates a little bit of weirdness. So it's certainly something we can look into. And if we're able to, once spring comes and we're looking at the budget, we can finagle some money into the 102 line, then it's certainly something we can look at too for the summer. It's always good for the alleys too, when they can go through and help clean up alleys and do that kind of work too.
Certainly. Council President Mantello.
Yep. Are we going to actually go through the numbers, like page 187? I'd like to talk about the appropriations.
We're going to give Renee a chance to give an overview first, and then we're going to dive into those numbers specifically. Yep.
Cool. I wanted to know how you were going to do it. Okay. And, I just want to say overall, Tom, I know it's super challenging out there. I do think that our sanitation department needs an overhaul. Just the more I work with folks, it just seems like I don't want you to take offense, and this is not toward you. Your folks do a wonderful job. They really do. But I just feel that it's not gelling, that it's very reactive. And I know each year we don't have enough people, et cetera. I, quite frankly, before hiring people, I've told a couple other departments, I'd like to see the department actually be reorganized to ensure that we're first getting the efficiency. Then we look at hiring folks. I think that you have come along incredibly. I really do. Believe me, I oversaw 7 superintendents who oversaw a similar department of laborers. I get it. But at the same time, I think we need to challenge the efficiency of the department. I'm looking at the numbers, I'm looking at the people, and it just keeps going up and up and up and up. That's not your fault, but at the same time, the efficiency part, is a huge piece of that. So I just want to say I have real strong concerns just about the department and just about it gelling. I see it very kind of reactive instead of proactive. I know you have your challenges with unions, with sick time, et cetera. But at the same time, all municipalities do, and every department does. But I just feel and I don't oversee the day-to-day, so I can't do that. Our job is to look at the budget, look at the manpower, and obviously ensure that people's garbage pickup is not continuing to go up and up and up, which it is, unfortunately, and at the same time that their service gets better and better and better. So I just wanted to just make that statement. I'm not asking any questions at this point. I do applaud you. I know you're working your buns off. I know that. I feel it's very just discombobbled a bit, and somehow it needs to be pieced together just a little better.
All right, thank you.
So just for clarity, I think everybody got the November vacancy list. It does not say on the November vacancy list if there's any vacancies in there, but there's one sanitation person opening, I believe, that just went vacant at the end of October. So just so you know, where that he's had a full contingent of people all year long, so he doesn't, other than this one sanitation person that was just recent, everything else has been full during the year. I know that was a question you've asked before.
Great, thank you. Unless there's any further questions for Tom on the overview, we'll turn it over to Renee for now.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. So an overview of 2021. As Tom had kind of addressed, we have had a number of successes with improved services within the sanitation department. And I think what is really important to note is that it's been a very, very low level of complaints. So based on when Tom started, when I started, the number of calls that I'm receiving at City Hall and that others of us at City Hall are receiving, I think it's made a huge change. This year we had 2 rain barrel and composter sale events as opposed to the one in the past. We had 4 household hazardous waste days. That was combined with 2 other municipalities. Something I'm sure you'll all be excited to know is that we have recently been collaborating with the county, and we're going to be doing a shared services arrangement to have 6 household hazardous waste day events next year, and we'll be collaborating on a countywide level, and Bethlehem will still be partnering with us on that. We had 1 electronics waste, tire, and shred day. We have had a significant presence at the neighborhood meetings. We've been giving out bins at the recommendation of one of our solid waste advisory board members. We had 56 Earth Week events, And we've noticed that there's been a huge presence of additional community cleanups that are going on in individual neighborhoods. We've had Thursday opening at the Alamo, thanks to Tom and his crew. And another item of note is that our newest employee in our department, Naomi, she is the reason we are in receipt of an $88,000 USDA grant, and that was within less than a month of her arriving to the city. So that was pretty cool to us. Recollect, our software platform is up and running. We've had a lot of searches that have been done on that. A lot of people have opted in for notifications. We've reintroduced and upgraded our newsletter. We've done some rebranding for sanitation department and for resource management department. We now have a logo. You might have seen it, the Uncle Sam hat with the recycling symbol on it. Our outreach and education levels have gone up significantly. We are presently in the process of becoming more aggressive with the permitting process for our haulers to make sure that everyone is accounted for and paying for their service or for their ability to service within the city. We're having a higher level of organics recovery, meaning the brush, branches, and lawn clippings, and we're aggregating and completing a whole lot more of our data aggregation. We had 18 trash audits across all the districts, 3 per district, and we had a distribution of reusable bags to 13 pantries within the city. Our biggest challenge has been being understaffed, particularly in the area of the account clerk. As you'll note, that's the requested addition we have for 2022. We have been grateful by being able to borrow from other departments, occasionally a senior account clerk to assist us, but that's only a temporary solution and it's not sustainable. For 2022, we are planning on adding a second electronics waste event. That's been something we've had a lot of call for. We are moving up to 6 household hazardouses, as I mentioned, in shared services with the city. They've already passed, with the county, they've already passed the resolution for that. And interesting to know that was unanimously passed 18-0. We are hoping that you will approve for the labor, so we'll be able to have extended hours at the Alamo instead of just the Thursdays, because we've had a lot of call for people to have additional hours there. We are hoping and planning to add on a stump lot, which we've spoken to DEC about permitting for. We're allowed to use 1 acre of city property that is facilitated, staffed, and managed by city, because that will save us about $35,000 a year in having those materials hauled out, and they're allowed to decompose naturally, and they would be managed by our staff. We'd like to be offering a master composter workshop, which is primarily grant covered by the USDA grant, and we have a city resident that is a master composter that's willing to assist us with that. We have the hope and plan for the barrel rollout, which is the secondary reason for the account clerk, so that can be ramped up before 2023. And we're hoping, as Jim and I had talked about last year before COVID, to have a large-scale diversion event so that the heavy, bulky materials that are reusable can get recovered rather than going to the landfill, which saves us money in tipping fees and gets that back to community members that need the materials. And additionally and finally, we plan on submitting more grant applications so that we can have funds that are outside of the funds that we're requesting from the city. That is a general overview of collaborations we've had with New Visions, with RPI and with SAGE, and with Troy Prep, which we'll continue to do next year as well. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Renee. And thank your team for all the hard work over the last year. Let's see. Are there any broad questions for Renee, or should we jump into the line by line?
Yeah, a super broad question, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. I guess I'm still Renee and Tom and the litter officers. How is in the Alamo the communication? I know Tom oversees the litter officers. I want to know how the two, not just the two of you, but more the workers, the communication between the litter officers, obviously codes involved sometimes, Chuck, the billing, the violations, and then Renee. And I have to tell you, you have done a lot, Renee, I feel, with really trying to educate folks on recycling, and we need to obviously continue kicking that up. But I do feel that there's a bit of a disconnect between, Renee's department, Tom's department, litter officers, Chuck, the billing, the violations, and I'd like to know how you guys communicate and how you feel that's working, and do you feel improvements are needed?
So we've been addressing that through weekly meetings, so we are all sanitation department. We're all overseen by Chuck as our commissioner, and on a weekly basis, our department account clerk, the recycling specialist, myself, and Tom have a kind of a meeting of the minds, see what's up, see what needs doing. On occasion, we've had the litter patrol officers come in and speak with us. They report directly to Tom. So I'm not sure I'm understanding exactly what the question is. The outreach communication is done by our recycling specialist, and she messages out to the community. And then internally, we communicate pretty much on the daily. So I'm not quite sure of the question.
Multiple times a day, to be honest with you.
Yeah, more the synergy in terms of delivering the service. I kind of feel like, okay, the violations go out and someone will say, okay, you need to talk to Gene. I must say, Chuck is super responsive. You're awesome, Chuck. And I'm not knocking anyone. I just feel that the delivery in terms of sanitation needs to be more synergized. I just feel that, Renee's kind of doing her thing, Tom's doing his thing, Chuck is trying to keep the glue together. Maybe I'm seeing it wrong, but I just don't see it gelling like it should. I don't. And that's just me. I'm not there day to day. From an outside perspective, that's kind of what I'm seeing. But if you feel no improvements.
Well, I know that it's all under.
Tom, can I just say something?
Sure.
So I'm going to say, since I have been here since 2016, overseeing this before Tom and Renee and Chuck took over when it was handled under one individual, I will have to tell you that I have never seen a department more in synergy because of the fact that this team meets on a weekly basis. They have team meetings, all aspects of them, from operations to foremen to recycling coordinators to Chuck, to everything, to talk about obstacles, talk about challenges of the week, what they're looking for next week. And to the fact where Naomi and Renee actually go down to the garage and actually interact with the crews down there to talk to them about updates to recycling, updates to facilities, updates to the programs that they're running. So I just want to put that out there because, yes, I do understand that there's challenges on the street, and the voices that you're hearing, whether through phone calls or emails or through social media, but the synergy on the team side, I've actually never seen better. So I just want to make sure that that is placed, because what they're doing right now is moving mountains to change an entire system, and trying to look forward for the next 10, 20 years for the city. And that is no small undertaking, especially with the pressures of the everyday that you all hear as well.
I will, as I still have the floor, Chair, I will jump in. It has nothing to do with social media. This is what I see on the streets. I do feel that it's improved. I just, like I said earlier, the price for sanitation in our city is now never going to go down. It's just going to keep going up and up and up. More people are going to be needed. At some point, it's got to be contained. And I just don't feel we're nearly at that level. So just my 2 cents, and I'll pass it along. I see Councilmember Ashley McPherson.
Well, I'm just, I don't know if we're.
Let Councilperson McPherson talk.
Yeah.
Kim.
Go ahead, Kim. Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Thank you. I was waiting for Anasha to say I could speak. Thank you, Anasha. I got a question. Who's doing the billing?
That's done by the account clerk in the department, and that's informed largely by Donna. So the billing comes from Donna unless it's a violation and it's litter patrol officers.
No, Emma does the billing.
Right.
You said Donna.
I'm sorry, Donna is sending information from the drivers. Tom is conveying that information in many cases from the drivers. That goes to Emma to be billed. Is that the question?
No, so my question is, who is doing the billing? And you're telling me Donna gets the complaint or whatever?
She gets the slips. She gets the slips from the drivers when a bulk pickup is called in, and that, and then she will also have the slips when the litter patrol officers collect a violation. That comes up to City Hall, and the account clerk is billing that out. Is that the
And who is
question?
the account clerk? Wasn't
account
Adrian
clerk.
doing it?
Correct. He's no longer here. He lives in New Zealand.
Correct. So
There's a new one.
who's in his place doing that?
Her name is Emma, but we should keep it really down to titles.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, do you have a person that has replaced him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But the issue is that now there's three litter patrol officers instead of two. So the amount of bills and invoices that need to be run has increased dramatically. And so she's completely inundated by the number of bills and invoices that she's got to process because her work is increased by 1/3.
But I will tell you, she does a phenomenal job. She actually is a transfer from the Treasurer's Department, and she's phenomenal.
I'm not asking if they're phenomenal. I'm not asking I'm asking who's doing the job. I needed to know that there was somebody in that position that's doing the billing of that position was
Yes.
filled. So that's what I need to know, if somebody was in that position. So that position, you're telling me, because we hired a third litter patrol, that person cannot handle that position because the amount of fines is increased. Is that what I'm understanding?
Not just fines, but also the regular billings that are coming through have increased because people are trying to avoid penalties, and so they're calling in the bulk pickups more.
So
So the
this
volume is
person-
increased on both sides.
So is that person's position, do they have computerized so they can do the billing computerized? So you're just inputting the information into the computer?
Everything is
bill?
manually entered. Everything is manually entered by
Okay,
that person. So everything that comes from the drivers has to be manually entered into the system.
okay. So
The
that.
billing is computerized. The issue that we have with the billing process is within KVS, the accounting system, it's a very manual process. So there's not a lot of automation that can occur with it. It has to be tied back to the property. It's not as simple. There's much simpler processes in KVS. The billing of bulk and bulk pickup and garbage violations is somewhat onerous because of all the detail that needs to be entered with the bill itself.
Is that something that you're looking at when you're looking at for a new system?
Oh, yes.
Good.
Can you tell me how many tickets are done a day?
Billing wise, you mean? Like
How
what?
many are written?
Oh, geez, that varies. I think, I would say 13 tickets per litter enforcement officer per day. I think we were right around there.
13 per
I'd
day,
say
so
between 11 and,
You're looking at
I'd
39,
say, I'm sorry, Kim, if I keep cutting you off. I know it was rough, that's a rough number, but it was within that range.
so 39 tickets, violations are being issued a day, approximately. So this
Well, I
person,
would say approximately, so yes, I would say approximately, and also there's a call-in feature that we do. So if a resident calls in to Public Works, to our dispatcher, for items to be picked up on a schedule, that also goes to billing with no violation, just added charges for the items. So there's actually another step involved, and I think that probably with our dispatcher hands in, I would say approximately another 10 to 12 a day, and she does north and south. So I would say there might be 10 to 12 per zone per day. I don't have an accurate number, but I know it's a lot higher. The
So if
call-ins
there's-
are sometimes,
So if
the
there's
call-ins are
6,
sometimes higher than what the enforcement officers handle.
so if you're just shits and giggles here, if there's 60 violations, tickets, pickups, everything a day, she has 60 that she has to put in, and you're saying she can't do that.
It's not just the 60, it's also the bulk, so it's
I
the three
included that.
border patrol officers.
I included that. You're not doing 30 bulk pickups a day. You're not doing 30 bulk pickups a week. I'm just trying to get an idea of,
Yes, we are.
Yes,
You're
they
doing-
are.
We are.
Yes. Whenever there's a violation, there's a pickup.
Both trucks are out every day. 1 to 2 trucks, one north and one south.
okay, so
And they are collecting every day.
I'd like to get a
And every
number.
time,
Excuse me.
every time,
I'd like to get a number, I know you're not gonna be able to give it to me right now, on how many violations, bulk pickups, whatnot, tickets a day that are being processed in that office. If that's possible.
I think what's important to know is it's a 3-system process. It's ARPA's, KVS, and CityView, so that the information has to get entered in 2 separate places, and then there's 3 sources of information that have to be tapped to get into that one invoice. So where it sounds very simple, as Andy said, it's a much more complicated process because it takes elements of those 3 systems to be able to generate a single invoice.
We'll get you the numbers of what is written and billed on a daily basis.
Thank you. I
For, say, for
appreciate it.
example, over the past 3 months, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Chair,
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to move on to the line by line, but if you have something, go ahead.
I just have one curious question.
Okay.
You talked about these different systems that are not collaborating with each other. Isn't there something we can do to get a system in here in line that everything works together so we don't go through this mass confusion on, I know, Andy, I know you probably know, but is there a way to do this? I know we're working on this stuff, but it just seems so confusing where we're telling that these other reports don't work and we're creating all this labor to get something done when it might be less expensive just to buy the right system and get it in there.
So it's a good point. So Renee just referenced 3 different systems. At a minimum, we have started drafting the RFP for the accounting system itself. At a minimum, the accounting system would need to communicate directly with CityView at a much easier capacity than it does now. That's at a minimum. There's a lot of logistics that have to be worked out, but we can certainly look at putting CityView within the new system as well. The other system that Renee mentioned is RPS, which is the assessor system. That is a New York State-based system for assessors. It is a mandated software. It does communicate directly with KVS. I don't use CityView, so I could speak to the link between RPS and KVS. They do link. It's a time-consuming process that needs to occur. So we would, the new accounting system, again, will have to communicate with RPS. It is vital for all the billing processes that occur at the city. But there's certainly, we would hope a more efficient process that is needed to link these systems together. There's no disputing that.
Oh, yeah. According to these conversations, I'm hearing that. I mean, we need to look at that.
It is something that is a big consideration of the RFP.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Council President,
Chair, this is just a broad chair, not numbers. Two quick questions. Renee, I wrote it down and I might have wrote it down wrong, so I apologize. Did you say more people are calling in for bulk?
Yeah, so what has happened is the violation numbers, as Tom had indicated, have dropped somewhat, and the numbers of the bulk pickups that people are calling in instead of getting violations have increased. And then,
Okay.
in addition to that, does that answer your question?
I guess I'm super confused now because one of the major, and I'm sorry, it goes hand in hand, you're looking to increase, you're saying that the proposed revenues for violations are going from $125 to $350. Why would there be a 200K jump in violations if violations are going down and more people are calling? I'm totally confused. And just a blanket statement, this is now separate and separately in its own column, a $5 million hit. And to not have the appropriate accounting and just the appropriate, what I feel, just synergy and communication. I know I'm expressing frustration. I have incredible frustration with the sanitation. This is a huge chunk of taxpayer money, of folks that obviously are paying this. And I guess, so on two fronts, I don't understand how, the estimates for the violations would be going up if more people are calling, and just a completely generic statement. I'm super frustrated on just obviously the synergy and the accounting of this department. Thanks.
Chair.
yeah, go ahead.
Chair. So the violations are going up because we increased litter patrol officers. So therefore, more violations are getting written. We've also increased, if you recognize in the code, we have incremental fines that are approached in the, so if the same person does the same issue 3 times in a row, we actually increase the increment of their fines allowable by code. And then in addition, we also, on the other side of the spectrum, where we have homeowners and property owners actually calling in their bulk pickups, so it's a parallel track, not a one side or the other. So you can have an increase in violations and a decrease in violations, so you said?
An increase, violations
An increase in violations, but still have an increase in the bulk pickup. So they're a parallel track. We do have and we all seen it. I mean, Council President, we all handled those, the Sickaway and the Beaman Park area where we had one really good litter patrol officer doing code work. I think it's a matter, you can do both. So you can have a decrease in the number of violations because you have an increase in phone calls, but you still have an increase in violations because you have an increase in violations. We see it every single day. And in regards to the accounting system that we utilize for the garbage fund is the same accounting system that we used for the city of Troy. And that was what Andy is actively trying to replace and to upgrade the city on. So it's not one way or the other, it's just how we have to input the system. We didn't ask these questions during the treasurer's conversation or the comptroller's conversation. If you knew what some of the handwork they have to do in order to make the bills go out the door as well, you would also ask those questions then. So just to kind of clarify that the accounting system is the same accounting system the overall city uses, not a separate system just made up for this. And then to answer the question about the violations. Thank you.
And Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
We all know it's all the same accounting. That's my point. When this fee went into place, how many years ago, temporary to permanent, whatever, up and up and up, you would think that we would have by now invested in more of an accounting system. We have talked about this since 2016, Monica. You and I know that. I got to know firsthand the clerk's office sitting with Patty and those folks for 4 months. It's antiquated. We knew it back in 2016, and we just keep talking about, and then adding staff. And I'm just super frustrated with the whole sanitation, the garbage fee, the violations, the bulk pickup that people didn't pay for. Our streets are not cleaner from 5 years ago. I'm sorry. So at some point.
It has nothing to do with garbage.
I still have the floor. I didn't interrupt you. All I'm saying, it does have to do with garbage because everything dominoes to the illegal dumping. We know that. We see it firsthand. The council gets calls 4, 5, 6 times a week. We know it. Everybody knows it. The illegal dumping has risen over the past 5 years since the fee has been put into place. At some point, we have to contain this. It has to be fixed. It has to be overhauled. And, obviously I'm not the day-to-day, but something has to change in the sanitation department. Sorry, I'm venting. I apologize, Chair. I'm done.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that. Oh, for now. Okay. All right, we'll move to the budget. Line by line, we'll start with the revenues on page 188 with the good transition offered by Council President. There are some significantly more fleshed out numbers. I know in the last few years we've been, there have been placeholders in a lot of these. Andy, how are you feeling about, do we have trends now that are making these harder numbers than they were in previous years?
Yes. So, yes, the answer to that question is yes. If I can have a few minutes, I can kind of go through a good chunk of them and hopefully answer some questions that will come up, I'm sure.
Perfect.
I guess where I want to start is as we've discussed in prior years, just the overall accounting and revenue recognition policy in the garbage fund is the same as the water and the sewer fund. Revenues are recognized as they are billed, not as they are paid. The reason for that is they are made whole. Unpaid charges are made whole from the general fund as part of the re-levy process. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about the garbage fee revenue. I'll save that to the end because I'm guessing that will be the substantial part of the conversation, if that's okay with everyone. Garbage violations were budgeted at $350,000. That was based off of an analysis of total charges and total adjustments to bills from 2019, 2020, and 2021. That calculation was done as of billings as of, I believe, approximately September 15th. There was, as the deputy mayor referenced, there was certainly a consideration that was given to the fact that in 2021, I believe, to my recollection, was when we had 3 full-time litter enforcement officers. So there was a balancing, when looking at the total in 2019 and 2020, there was certainly a consideration there. That is how $350,000 was arrived at. Bulk pickup fees at $200,000 also involved looking at an analysis of bulk pickup billings, charges and adjustments in 2019, 2020, and 2021 as of the same date as previously referenced. $200,000 I felt was a reasonable number to estimate for that revenue category. The commercial pickup revenues of 138, and I do apologize for clearing my throat. I am battling a bit of a cold. Commercial pickup 138. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm not interrupting you, Andy. I apologize, Chair. Can we make sure we also go over page 187, the overall annual budget part? I know Andy went right into the revenues, et cetera, but
yeah,
Awesome, thank you.
That would probably be slightly informed by our other discussions, and we'd maybe hit it towards the end.
Commercial pickup revenues of 138,408 are directly tied to garbage fees. That ties to page 187. So if it works, we'll finish 188, and then we can jump back to 187. Those two accounts tie to the calculation on that page. $150,000 for interest and penalties. There's two considerations for that number. A balancing of what the fee is a secondary. There's also a consideration of what we've seen historically as a percentage of unpaid on the fee. I felt $150,000 was reasonable, given what the proposed fee is at, and quite frankly, the continued unpaid percentage we see on the fee throughout the year. Hauler permits of $30,000 was determined based off information provided by Renee. The sales tax of $9,000 represents the paper bag fee collection that occurs within the city of Troy. I used what we were collecting in 2021 to date as the most reasonable amount to determine. It was not budgeted for in 2021. Gibson donations of $7,000. That's the annual contribution from the Rubin Foundation for specific expenditures. Employee contributions to health insurance. That's based off of the premium equivalent calculation. You will see a jump. There was an increase in the number of employees within the department who have family coverage now as opposed to what they had in 2021. State grants are tied out to specific expenditures within departments, primarily 8189. There's also some expenditures within 8170. The transfer from the general fund, just under $625,000, is based on the actual and direct costs that the general fund is responsible for that are budgeted within the garbage fund. And the transfer from the debt service fund of $7,527 is the proportionate share of the premium received by the city on 2021 bond anticipation note issuances. Are there any? I know I went through those. I was hoping that would answer some questions that council members may have. Are there any specific questions about revenues other than garbage fees and commercial pickup?
Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Andy, what do you have to date for the violations? What's our number to date? And what's our number on bulk to date?
Bulk to date is 42,000. Bulk to date is 42,245. Garbage violations are $262,602.
Is that collected or billed? Both of those?
Billed.
Yeah, good. I had one just philosophical question. Why are the interest and penalties, why do those go into the general fund rather than the garbage fund rather than the general fund?
Because it's interest and penalties charged on unpaid garbage per unit bills, garbage violations, and bulk pickup.
But the general fund is carrying those unpaid debts, right?
General fund is required under state law to make the originating fund whole.
Yeah. I mean, obviously.
You recognize revenues in which, in the current year, you recognize revenues in which they derive from.
Okay. Any other questions about the specific revenue lines?
Chair,
Yes, Councilmember.
Andy, can you just tell me again, you said under the bulk pickup, to date, it's $42,245. but you have the estimate of 240,000. So we're like almost 190 some odd thousand. almost
So
200
we bill to the account based off of sequence numbers, right? For example, what I mean by sequence is if you look at your water bill on a quarterly basis, you'll see your account number will start with is anywhere between 51 and 64, 51 and 64, depending on where you live in the city. It's the same methodology that we use for the bulk and the garbage violation billing.
But I
Garbage
guess
violations,
I guess
garbage.
I'm sorry. I guess my
Go ahead.
confusion is, you said the bulk pickup billed to date was $42,245, correct?
That's what I have in the general ledger, yes.
So, but you have an estimate for the approved estimates for the year to be 240,000.
For 2021, yes.
Right. So we're in 2021, but we only got 42,000 that was billed for it. Where's the other money going to be billed for? I guess I'm off on that.
I can review the billings to date and provide more information to you on that. I'm going off the general ledger numbers of the specific account right now. That there does appear to be some review that I need to do within the account. I can do that and get back to you Friday if that works.
That's fine, but you see where I'm confused on what you're saying was billed?
No, I understand. I could provide some better context once I review that account and the garbage violation account themselves.
So can I ask you, what was the total collected to date? Do we have that?
I can run a report, but it's going to take several minutes to run.
Okay. All right.
Carmela, going back to the question that you had asked before about the violations.
I'm sorry.
What I was indicating. I'm so sorry. I apologize.
So you're going to give me the total billed to date versus the total collected to date. Can you do that for me, Andy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Can I provide both analysis? Does it work if I send all of that after the meeting?
Yes. I'm not going to ask you to break it all down right now, but you see where my confusion is, where you're giving me those numbers and it doesn't add up to what the numbers in there. So that's what I was trying to figure out. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you for that clarification, and we'll look forward to that report. Renee, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Carmela, I misunderstood what you were asking us the question before, so I don't think I answered the right question, and I went back and did a calculation. It's that the dollars per violation have dropped. So we're not getting the larger size of the violations to the extent that we were before, but there are more smaller violations. Does that make sense? So the average may be $40 per violation, so it's a lesser dollar amount, but there's more of them. So I don't think I answered your question properly before. We've got 3 litter patrol officers, so there's more of them generated, but they're not at the high dollar amounts that they were as much as they were before.
So they're moving from sort of a hierarchy of concern. They had initially addressed the big, obvious alleyway full of mattresses, and now that has shifted towards those folks that are more likely to be calling in advance, their work is shifting towards some of the smaller everyday nuisance litter issues and trying to address those.
Thank you. That was much more eloquent than what I expressed. Yes, that's exactly what we're indicating, and that's why the numbers were adjusted for 2022. So I apologize for not answering the right question earlier.
Okay, thank you. Andy, did you say you want to jump right into the fee calculation, or do you want to go into any of the appropriations before we do that?
That's up to the council.
Okay, I'm gonna jump to the appropriations because obviously they're going up. So I'd
Yes.
like to get some context on that, and then we'll go into the calculation. So we will start. Well, you got an overview. We'll start in. I assume no one has any questions on comp or health insurance or insurance or contingency. Or I guess contingency. That's doubling. No, we had talked about.
Okay.
We hadn't put in quite what was recommended last year. Is this now up to standard? With this,
It's much more adequate. I say that, I mean, I'm not, at the risk of sounding sarcastic, it's, when you go off the standards of the state comptroller's office, they never really give you a straight answer as to what they think. 70,000 is much more adequate for the garbage fund. You know, there's a balance between fee cost and size of contingency that needs to be considered when coming up with the amount in the account.
okay. Anyone have any further questions about any of those minor budget lines, or should we jump to residential pickup? Okay. Residential pickup.
Chair?
Yeah.
Just at some point also, I put in a chat, you know, that the mayor, you know, had talked about putting the framework in 2022 for per barrel and to be implemented in 2023. Just obviously, generally, broadly, I would like that talked about and where it is in the budget, et cetera, and what's being done in 2022 to implement that in 2023, the proposal at least. Thank you.
Okay. That seems helpful, but we'll start with the residential pickup as currently envisioned for 2022.
Page, please.
Page 197.
So with council's permission, what we'll do is address the line items as they've been adjusted or changed, and the others we won't review just to save you time. So line 101, permanent salaries is based on contractual increase only. Line 103 of overtime has been budgeted per actual holiday. So you'll see that there's a large jump there because in the past, that was something that we were doing that was reactive. We're doing this proactively, so we have a full staff as needed for the actual holidays. The clothing allowance, line 107, has been adjusted due to product cost. Jumping down to the 302 line, there has been an adjustment on that as we're slowly replacing iPads and we're paying for the Verizon Connects that we're using for GPS systems. Other materials and supplies are for replacement bins as needed, whether or not we go with the other bin system. Postage 402 is because there wasn't a line item for that before for residential postage, and we had to utilize it from another department and requested a transfer on that. Printing and advertising, the expenses for printing and advertising have increased because of the materials that are being produced and distributed to the community on that. On the reverse side, 408 line is that a larger portion of the software will be covered by the city for the dues and subscriptions for Recollect, and a portion of that will still be considered by the Rubens Foundation. Services from other funds, 421, is interfund transfer. That is all for changes on the 8160.
Great. Just to clarify, at the beginning you said on permanent salaries it was contractual. I believe it also is the 2 additional sanitary persons. Is that correct?
I apologize. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about the temporary salaries being zeroed out as well. I think that is worth a second look. But we'll save that for the report. Unless any of you have any further thoughts on adding some of that temporary salaries back in there.
Chair.
Chair.
Yes, Council President Mantello.
Yep, I did want to, I'm glad that you clarified the permanent salaries weren't just contractual increases, the positions. And also I'd like to hit the tipping fees. Obviously, they're going down. Looks like the estimate from 2020, it was 978. Looks like this year 905, and it's going down to 840. Tipping fees are going down, garbage fees are going up. I would like that explained. I mean, I think Andy pretty much kind of talked about that in finance, that we're losing households to the private haulers, but obviously with the tipping fees going down, garbage fees going up, it doesn't really mesh, but obviously I'll let the administration hit that.
So the tipping fee, in terms of the number of tons that we're tipping, is what's causing that to decrease. But the actual per ton rate has gone up more this year than it has since I've been here. I believe it was a $3.40 increase, and in the past we've had about a 42-cent increase. And so incrementally, it has gone up significantly. So we also have to account for that. Does that answer your question?
What is our per ton fee now?
Right now, I believe it's 62.61, and I believe it's going up to 65. I have that specific number if you want me to look at that for you.
Okay. Yeah, somehow I had thought that was locked in by the lease agreement. Is it only the recycling fee that's locked in by the lease agreement?
No, they're allowed to have a CPI on it annually, and this is the max CPI they could make, and this is the first year they've done the max CPI.
Understood. Sorry, Council President Mantella, did you have anything else, or should we turn it over to?
Yeah, I am curious what Andy has for that tipping fee to date. That would be helpful.
$695,687.
95, 687 to date. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Councilmember Jackson-Pearson?
Sarah, just 1 second.
So part of the reduction in the tipping fee is also due to the fact that, as I'd mentioned, we want to do additional events. It's extraordinarily expensive for some of the materials that we're tipping to be in the waste stream. So to remove them from the waste stream, whether it's the branches, brush, leaves, not just the hauling, but the tipping on them that we were paying, we've reduced the amount of contamination that's in that, and we'll keep that as materials within the city. The very, very heavy materials that are being collected from households, all those things are going to start ticking down that number of what we're seeing in terms of the actual tip rate.
Okay. Have you done any internal analysis or review maybe on, is this reduction of tipping, how much of that is driven by actual reduction per household that is enrolled in trash collection, and how much is driven by people leaving our trash collection?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I'm not sure I understood the question.
I guess it's we'd have to tease out the bulk rate, but I guess that might already be done. The tipping fee per enrolled household, is the fact that we're dropping by $60,000 here due to folks actually recycling more and diverting more, or is it due to
Yes.
Leaving our? I assume it's both. They're recycling more and diverting more, and we do have increasing numbers of households that are not participating in our trash collection system at all. Can we try to tease out how much of this $60,000 is attributable to each of those?
Well, I would say since our recycling percentage has continued to climb over the past year, that we have increased in recycling on average about 2% since the start of the year, whereas many municipalities lost ground on it and decreased by as much as 8%. So So I would say, yes, there's a measurable amount of materials recovery that we're doing instead of tipping. And yeah, we have lost resident participation in some cases, but what we are starting to see is residents convert back over to city pickup because we're more cost effective. And as soon as the promotions are expiring from other folks, they are coming back to the city. So I do believe we'll have some recovery from that as well. Does that answer your question?
In broad strokes, yes. Thank you. Turn it over to Councilmember Kim Ashman-Mason.
Thank you. My first thing is just going to be a comment. Back in 2016, when the garbage fee, 17, when the garbage fee went into place, it was said, you know, when tipping fees would go down, the garbage fee would go down. And it looks like the tipping fees are going down, but the garbage fee is still going up. So doesn't make sense to me there. So that's my first, just a comment there. My question is on line 304, vehicle expense. Unless I'm reading it wrong, it looks like it's going up $40,000, almost $50,000. What is that?
So the 30456 is going from the current budget from 42,000 to 62,600. That is based off of the in 2021, the DPW garage implemented technology to track fuel usage. So what we've been able to do is reflect more accurately in all departments the actual cost of gas and oil expense. The 30456 lines that you see in all departments are much more reflective of actual costs due to the technology. The technology now requires that employees enter a PIN number when they use the gas pumps. The PIN number is traced back to the department that they worked for before it was done entirely on paper. There was a lot of room for, you know, the total was correct, but the department allocation certainly was not, as you're seeing throughout many departments.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Anyone else? I do have a quick follow-up question about the Verizon Connects you mentioned. Are all of our trucks now tracked by GPS? And does that include any kind of fleet management software on the back end?
So all of the sanitation trucks, for purposes of aggregating the data, have the GPSs in them. What was the other part of the question?
Yeah, so I'll answer the second part. So we are actually looking at some fleet management systems now that will actually dovetail onto the GPS that they're utilizing for the routing purposes and the collection purposes that they're doing. It's called GeoTab. Aaron's been working with a couple of groups right now. We've had the unions involved. We've had the other various departments involved as well. And we're actually looking at for road surface conditions versus tracking, but more to gather data on the roads themselves.
Great. That sounds helpful. I guess, you know, it'd be nice if there was a way to, you know, at 3 o'clock, look at a map and see that everywhere has been checked off, basic, you know, a truck has been everywhere. I know that's the kind of thing some of these systems can do. And then, you know, the next step beyond that is starting to use algorithms to enhance the efficiency of your route. You know, how is the route filling the truck well, but not in a way that makes them take too many trips back and forth in an inefficient way. Those are probably, I guess, are those things that you're looking at already, or things that are would be coming up?
Yes.
Things that are happening already, or that are being looked at to happen?
Both. So I've been speaking with and working with 2 interns over the period of a year. and they are working on a bunch of data aggregation for us, and that will help feed the choices and decisions that are being made and the input. It will give input into the geotab when that happens.
Great. Thank you. That sounds like some good synergy.
Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have just one more question, another general question, I guess. Renee? Can you hear me? Oh. Hi, Renee, how are you? I'm
Good,
just
how are you?
curious. Good. I'm just curious. I know that when we talked in conversations with, I believe it was the police, I made a note, there was like 170 dump reports. Those dump reports, now, you know, nobody pays for that. How much do you think that affected the revenue based on the, you know, that amount of dumping that was occurring? And what kind of average do we have, like, now in a month? Like right now, what are we running at a month now? Is it more than 10 or 12 a month? Just dumping reports, though.
I don't know where those numbers came from. I'm gonna answer for Renee right now. She really doesn't know, I guess, how to respond, but, 170, you said a month, because that's.
No, I did not. I said 170 for a year.
Oh, 170 for a year.
And
I would have
if I
to
made
say,
that mistake, I apologize, but that's not what I meant. But my mind can go sideways sometimes.
yeah, maybe I might have heard it wrong too, Jim.
Yeah.
So how it works is, even though, you may not, there's a difference between an illegal dump, like, something dumped off in a city lot, a private lot, and it's different than a resident putting out material without calling it in, because that is also an illegal dump. That's a violation. So we see that a lot. So there's really, I think it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the two on paper, because you really don't know what you're looking at. For instance, the mattress on Gurley Avenue.
No, Tom, the number I'm talking about is the number of time that the police had to be called to do one of those MV 100s or whatever it's called reports.
Okay, for the whole year?
And I was told that there was close to 170 calls over the last year. So I'm just trying to figure out if they have to go in. How much does that cost us in revenue?
Well, now if within that material, what happens is that's a form that was called the TP 100 form, which now the sanitation department has their own form, which is now an LP 100 form. So that form, when that gets called in from the police department, goes to the litter patrol officers, and even though it's an illegal dump, their job is to go and inspect that material and to pull any information out of it to write a violation. If there's any material in there with a name on it and address.
Tom, I think he's asking, what does that cost us to dump? What does that add to our tipping?
What's a typical
I don't think
typical bulk
I
fee
can't really
charge?
put a number on
170.
that.
I'm sorry, Tom, I overtalked you. I apologize.
I couldn't put a number on that. 170. It would go by the size of the pile, what it is. Everything goes by tonnage where we dump it, so it'd be hard to, I guess, put a number on that. But
I hear you. I know.
1 ton is $62. One ton right now is $62.
Okay.
So it may have cost $10,000 if it was aggregated out per dump.
Yep. I'm very happy to hear. Yeah, that's a sufficient answer. Listen, I'm really happy to hear that we're starting to use our litter patrol officers to do these reports, leaving our police officers where they need to be. I'm excited by that.
yeah, the LP 100 form has been working out great. Unfortunately, there is still some calls that go into the police department regarding illegal dumping, and that does get forwarded to them before it's collected. And, you know, if they can get material out of it with the name and address, they do also correspond with the community police officers, and I guess get a little more detailed account of that person. And we do send out violations. So, it's working.
Okay, and just one last question. Are we utilizing those portable cameras in trouble spots where we see we're having multiple incidents? Are we utilizing those cameras to try to do something to, catch somebody, make an example out of them, so nobody else wants to do it?
We have the cameras up, right now. As a matter of fact, I just pulled another one out on Monday and switched it to a different area. So right now we have 7 running. One of them has been pretty stable in an area of illegal dumping where, somewhere in the vicinity of Hoosick Street. We did catch an offender up there recently, and picked up the material. That person will be getting that address and that person will be getting a violation, but, so the good thing about the cameras is we're able to bounce them around different areas of the city, private lots. Even right now, we have a couple that are on city property, surveilling them. So they are up and running, and so far they've really curbed the illegal dumping. People have noticed them out there, and I think overall we've been very successful with the operation of the camera system. I think we've been doing with the camera system. We've definitely been doing a lot better with handling the illegal dumping, and I think the residents are starting to understand that we've been using them now for I think 1.5 to 2 years, and it's been successful so far. Not perfect, but successful.
Well, practice makes perfect, Tom. Put one up on Gurley Ave, will you?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Chair?
Yes, Council President Mantello.
No problem. Last year I wrote down 16,912 households. Do you have the number to date of the households receiving pickup?
I can get that and send it out.
Is it not the 15,705 in the garbage fund calculation?
That's what, on page 187, and that's what it was as of October 6th, when we, right around October 6th. I would want to double check for the most up-to-date numbers in case if there's been any further adjustments made.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd appreciate the up-to-date, because, Renee, you had said that some folks, were coming back, et cetera. I'm not seeing that. Obviously, I don't have the numbers, so before my visual seeing on the streets, I'd like the actual numbers. And I'd also, if you don't mind, we had talked earlier about, I'm not sure if you're getting us the records or Renee is getting us the records. We had talked about, I apologize, so many different records, bear with me. Might have been the violations. If we could get a record of those to date, collected and billed, that would be great. I think you're getting that, Andy, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other? Yep. Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Sorry. Do we have an accurate number of businesses that we're charging for garbage pickup as well?
As part of the fair share program or citywide?
Citywide.
Yes, and that is reflected in the total number of billable units that we have, because the small businesses that are picked up from are included in that number. So there aren't going to be
a small business is getting the same charge amount that a residential is getting.
For the same amount of garbage produced, for one unit, yes. And Tom's team has been very much on top of it. If somebody is generating more than one unit of trash, more than one 96 gallon, if they have a 96 gallon, that they're being billed additional for the additional cans. We've been very diligent about that together.
So with businesses, you're giving them cans and charging them per can?
In some areas where there are cans, otherwise, if there's excessive number of cans that they're producing and in their area there aren't cans, then they're going to be charged accordingly. So if let's say a property that's a business has 7 of the 44 gallons, and that's what's in their property in their neighborhood, they're going to get assessed for 3 units of trash. If they have a 196 gallon and they're in that zone, like for example in the fair share, that is 1 unit of trash. If they have it collected 3 days of the week, they're paying for 3 units of trash for that 1 can. So it's incrementally charged based on what that business is producing.
I guess
that was the whole.
I guess maybe I didn't ask the question correctly. I'm not talking about the fair share because I'm assuming the fair share is downtown, correct? I don't think
it's downtown and extended out from.
Okay. Do you have fair share businesses up in Lansingburg that are getting it?
Not yet. We'd love to at some point.
Okay, so I'm talking about businesses up in Lansingburg. Do we have an accurate number of those businesses that are being charged for pickup?
Yes, it's aggregated into the total number of units that are picked up citywide. So
And
they
you
are
know,
considered units.
100% accuracy, you know who's getting picked up and who's being charged.
Tom and Rusty and I have been working on that diligently throughout the year. There have been some unusual cases where something has slipped through. You brought one to our attention back a month or so ago because the business owner was not the same as the building owner. And so there have been a couple of those that we have caught up on. And, you know, thanks to you, there was that one additional. But in general, we've been super diligent about it.
And what about the non-for-profits?
The only non-for-profits that I have any knowledge of that we're collecting from, we do collect from TRIP and they are billed for it. And we do collect from a couple of churches and they are also being billed for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any further questions on the residential pickup budget?
Chair?
Yes, Council President Mantello.
Yep. What I would love, if we could get, obviously, we're not going to get tonight, but some type of, I mean, I'd like to look like Andy. He provides and he will even detail it more for bonding, et cetera. To get a better grip on this department, I'd like to see more like data, statistics, and reporting. So I'm even thinking we might in 2022, and maybe at the end of this year, ask for a quarterly report for this department, just to get an idea, you know, quarterly households. What Councilmember Ash McPherson had asked regarding businesses that are billed, et cetera. Obviously, Andy gives the numbers. I want to see what's behind those numbers and at least quarterly track what's happening with the department. I really think it would help all of us instead of waiting, like, you know, yes, we talk to you throughout the year, we get it verbally, we're doing a million things tonight, we're all over the place. We need, I think, a better system of tracking this department. And, you know, now that the department has grown, what I feel to a very, very high number, I definitely, for next year at least, am going to request more quarterly reports and sitting down, having the GS committee and just going through this, because There's a lot happening tonight, and I really feel a lot of numbers, a lot of verbal, not a whole lot we're getting in hand. So I think that might help, and that's just me talking. Thank you.
So Carmela, what would be super helpful on our end is if you can send an email outlining what type of statistics would help. I do a whole lot of data aggregation, probably more than you'd want to see. And so knowing the specifics of what it is that would be helpful will help me determine what it is that I can send you. That being said, depending on how labor intensive it is, there are only two of us that aggregate that sort of data because that's outside of the purview of what an account clerk would do. And so if it happens that it takes a week or two to get that information aggregated for you from the information we've got, you might have to bear with us a little on that.
Chair, I get that. I think, am I on mute? Okay, it just came off. Excuse me, I understand. However, that's why I'm thinking if we quarterly track what we're looking for, and it's not just me, other council members have certainly asked for some numbers, et cetera, the households, all that. And, so saying that we'll compile, I think, what we're looking for. So then like quarterly, we could get a tracking system because, clearly there's a lot happening. And I would love, at some point, the numbers on the fair share, what's happening with that program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I have a quick question.
Yes, Councilmember McDermott.
This question is for either Tom or Renee. Are you looking at families that have multiple garbage bins? For instance, there's a property in my district that has 5 bins and it's a 2-family. They're listed as in IQS as having 2 garbage fees. Are you looking at those?
You're talking about the one on that we've all had conversations about?
Yes.
Not to name names, but I think we actually changed, Chuck, did we change their billing to accommodate the additional bins? We did. Even though it's on the RPS system as having a certain dollar amount, I think we actually changed their actual billing to reflect the amount of bins that they were using because somebody was using it for other purposes.
Right. There was lots of recycling there that was coming from a business. And if there was recycling from the business, which meant there was probably garbage coming from the business.
Correct. So we adjusted the number of units for that. That was from what, 2 years ago, I think?
No, because I think it was when I was on. Will it reflect anywhere where I can see it in a report?
Well, it depends how quickly the county, because it's on the county's information as
Well,
well.
we change it, so we'll check it and we'll report back to you because I don't want to give the address out.
No, I agree. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Chair?
Yes, Council President Mantillo.
While we're talking about barrels, do you want to delve into the framework that you're putting in for 2022 and the implementation for 2023?
Before everyone.
Sure, so I'm going to lead it.
Yeah, I guess municipal pickup is as good a place as any to give that overview of the broader plan.
Chair, I have one more question on residential, if we could.
Sorry, that's what I meant by but yeah, if you have a question on the residential budget particularly, that'd be great.
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, we're asking for an account clerk in residential pickup. Could you please explain to me where that person will be located, what their duties will be, and what impact they will have to your operation?
So I'm going to jump in because some of this relates to what the council president has asked and requested as well. So municipal pickup is not necessarily where the new bins would fall. The new bins and the new bin system would actually fall under the residential pickup. It's a residential pickup program. The municipal bins are actually exactly what it is, municipal pickups. It is city facilities, it's parks, it's.
I'm sorry, I
it's all
misspoke when I said
that.
municipal pickup, Council President. We're still on residential pickup, talking about the account clerk position and then about the bin program.
It wasn't me talking. Anasha, I wasn't talking.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I meant Monica.
I realize that. So just to clarify, municipal pickup is not introduced into what the council president asked about. Council president asked about the multiple bin system that we look to plan for 2022, and this goes back to long-term conversations that we've had for multiple years about trying to implement a system. We try to bring a system to the council early on. The council needs numbers in order to look forward. It's impossible to get numbers until it's time for budget season. So it's a very inefficient way to establish a program for long-term use for the city. What we pulled together this year was the ability to actually build the infrastructure of the department, and that is literally allocating an account clerk only, in addition to the sanitation pickup stuff, but to help build the system and also help to offload some of the work of the existing account clerk that is getting increasing, is to be able to add that account clerk to be able to help build the program and pull the system together. It will require a lot of registration and talking and communicating to our residents. The multiple bin system is something that will be implemented in 2023, so it will not have a garbage fund budget impact other than the account clerk for 2022. But that account clerk also will be handling everyday duties that are associated with the fund as well. So the bin system is something that we are working on, that Renee and Tom and the team have been working on. This is a compromise. We have heard the council and the residents' concerns about the pay-as-you-throw. We don't feel that that the city has the support to implement that effectively, to be honest, even though there is support for it. The greater support probably isn't quite there. We also hear the council and the community's concerns, the neighborhood's concerns about, I know this is Kim Ash-McPherson's issue, about actually having street cans and having cans for all of the properties. So part of that is to implement a total barrel system through the city as well for 2023. That will also be in 3 different sizes. That will actually help with the pay-as-you-throw. People want pay-as-you-throw because they want to pay less. So that will implement and appease the people who are looking for that. The bin system to help a very transient neighborhood-oriented area, say for example, that needs, covered bins and big bins to handle the larger amounts of garbage that they have, that will be satisfied as well. So we feel this is a really good compromise between what the council has extended to us as their concerns. The concerns we've heard from some of the more eco-friendly residents of our neighborhoods to want to be able to go into a pay-as-you-throw system, but be able to put something forward that we actually think can be sustainable and manageable in order to make this work. So the account clerk is to help pull all of that together. So I just answered Jim's question and Carmela's question all in once. So the account clerk is to be able to pull all of that together and help in a team format with the crew to be able to implement the bins for 2023, because it will be a barrel rollout and a startup of January 1st. There is no way, given the dynamics of how these conversations go on an annual basis, and then to be able to get a budget vote on November 29th or 30th of every year to be able to implement a system in 4 weeks. We saw last year what happened with a hybrid program where we had a regular collection and then we implemented a pay-as-you-throw midstream. It artificially increased the fee, which that wasn't accountable. People didn't like that as well. So it's the cleanest way to get to a long-term solution. It's efficient. We can keep people included in the process. We can hold the meetings that they've been holding like they have all this past year and meeting with all the community groups. We've had good feedback to date from all the work that the team has been doing from our neighborhood. So there's an overview for you, Council President, and then also an answer to your question, Jim.
Thank you. Chair, I'd like to suggest that after the budget, that we might schedule a general services meeting, have an overview on this program and the implementation of it coming up towards 2023.
Certainly. Yeah, obviously this discussion is going to take a lot more in-depth.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
Councilmember Ashman.
And just to be clear, we'll organize those, we'll work with you to organize the general services meetings, but we actually are being proactive and coordinating public meetings to be able to roll this out as we go as well too. They have an education fund, they have a budget for that, they have a plan for that. So, this is something that will be initiated out of the sanitation department.
Great.
Chair,
Yeah, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
I was just, Jim had asked my question, that's why I took my hand down, but just to bring it up with what the deputy mayor just said, I think the council needs to be abreast of it first before you're rolling it out to the public, so we know what's being talked about and not being told by the public what's going on. So I think we should be informed first.
As I said, it would be in concert with the general services meeting. You can call the general services meetings, but we'd also be having public meetings as well. You represent the public, and therefore they should be as notified as well too.
Chair?
Great. We will work with you to schedule that meeting in the next few weeks, I guess. Any further questions on?
Chair, just one comment.
Yeah.
I just strongly feel that when the council and the administration are on the same page, when we share the same message, when it's delivered to the public, that we can actually enhance the process of that program to make it more successful, because then we know what we're talking about. We don't have to say, we'll get back to you, or let me find out, or I don't want to answer you because I don't have that answer. It's just a team thing. If you really want to make success happen, we all need to collaborate and communicate with each other. And I would like to have that information, before we get out to the public. I wanted to go to the public, but it would be nice if we all could be on the team with you and help promote this process throughout the city to our social media leverage. I know I've got 1,300 or so people that tag on to my piece. It's not a lot compared to some of you guys, but there's people out there that at least want to hear what I got to say. And I think that's important for us to be on the same page with you guys instead of having to ask you what the page was when they're asking us questions. Just my thoughts.
Really understood, and that's what I said.
Yes, Council President.
Yeah, I'll second Councilmember Gully. I don't think Councilmember Ash McPherson was saying anything out of line. I mean, obviously, we're going to be asked, and if we're not obviously in sync with what this proposal is, don't know what it is, we're just going to tell folks it's another name for pay-as-you-throw. So I certainly want to know more about it. I want to know the details, and I think it'd be smart to have a public meeting. Public can hear also, and then bam. If it's something that the administration is going to move forward, they might want to tweak it. We may have actual ideas to help you move this forward, but I don't know anything about it at this point. So saying that, I second what Councilmember Ash McPherson and Councilmember Gully stated. Thank you. I would think also, Chair, we could probably do this like right after the first of the year. There's going to be a new council. And to squeeze in before the holidays, I think would be very difficult with schedules, but that's just me talking. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, any further questions on residential pickup before we do move to municipal pickup? Okay, municipal pickup.
All right, 101, this time I actually checked before I said, I've asked for contract on the 101 line. Oh, I'm sorry, page 202.
All right, go ahead.
No additional positions in this department. purely an overtime adjustment. Again, this is for the reality of what's been happening. We had 4 household hazardous waste day events. We are hoping to add the additional weekend diversion events, as well as the electronics waste. And so because we've already had a bunch of events this year, we can take into account what that overtime expense has been. And so this is adjusting for it, so it's a realistic number rather than it coming out of permanent salaries and leaving us short someplace else.
Does some of the overtime get compensated for by the DEC?
I can't.
Does some of that overtime end up getting compensated for by the DEC? For household hazardous waste day?
The salaries, no. The only salaries that are covered by the DEC grants are mine and Naomi's, and that's at a 50% coverage. There are a bunch of items that are covered by DEC outside of those categories.
Okay. They don't support the household hazardous waste days with staffing.
Correct. The 405 line of tipping fees, I'm pleased to report that there's actually been a decrease in the municipal production of waste. It has changed more over to recycling, so that's why you're seeing a reduction there. Consultant services, that is showing up as an increase because we were not having as many events before, and that's where you're seeing the household hazardous come out of. We are getting 50% reimbursement on that, so you'll see that reflected in the income that Andy had stated before. But I'm also considering in that one of the things that was greatly in demand was the services for the tire and additional electronics waste events. And so I've separated that out, so it's not showing as part of the rest of the tip fee as well. So you'll see that that number has been bumped up almost proportionally to the other number decreasing. The other consultant services line is for additional landfill services because we have consultants that have been working with us up there to make sure that everything is in check and done as per DEC regulations. So that's been a continued line item. It's not a change in line items at all. And I believe that's all the changes in municipal.
Renee, where did you say that the electronic waste and tire went?
So it was originally part of the tipping fees. And so because this is a municipal event and not a residential event, that's why it's captured in this. And it's taken out of the tipping fees because it's handled by a special consultant. And so we figured it was more true numbers to have the consultant fees separated out from the tipping fees so that it's reflected accurately. Also going back to what Carmela was mentioning before about data sets, this gives me truer information to provide to DEC, which I'm required to do on an annual basis. And so it allows me to have a more accurate ongoing tally of what's being spent on those accounts.
Okay, so 409, the clean 409 line includes household hazardous waste and the electronics and the tire, etc.
Correct. Yep, and shredding when that has happened. And so that's all is captured in that line.
Great. Are there other fees besides the tipping fees for those things that are included in this consultant services?
Not that I can think of, because we're paying them essentially a handling fee, and so the cost of the weight and anything that has to do with that then becomes their expense. So it's the consulting fee, which is, I talked to Colleen, our senior account clerk, about that to make sure that we're capturing it in the right way, because we want to have accurate information that's captured in the most realistic and sensible way.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
When to Jim's point or question earlier about dumping, illegal dumping, does the tipping fees associated with the pickup of that illegal dumping end up in the municipal pickup or somewhere else?
It's in both.
Okay.
It's in both.
Any further questions on municipal pickups before we move to bulk?
Chair?
Yeah, Council President Mantella?
That was a great question that you had just asked. I guess, how is it distinguished when, not just litter patrols out there or pickups are out there between municipal and residential? How are they tracking that?
Well, municipal is our own buildings, our own facilities, our own parks. And so that's done. Tom gave me very accurate information on which trucks are servicing that route on those days. And on a monthly basis, I aggregate the data on those specific trucks. For the half days that they service it, on Mondays and Thursdays, that's provided by county waste. So that covers all of our facilities on Mondays and Thursdays, as well as the county pickup that we do and don't receive revenue on.
I was going to ask you about the county. So don't we have an agreement with the county for pickup? And I thought we had an agreement.
Correct. We're not charging. They contacted us and said that they were not.
It's an in-kind.
Yeah.
The shared service.
Okay.
So there's a zero cost to them.
What do we get in kind?
Use of other equipment. So in exchange, we're allowed to use their chipper and other large equipment that the city doesn't own, so that we're able to do that at a zero cost on a loan basis.
Okay.
Would you like us to take it up with the county to change that?
Well, we have a council member hopping over, so that can be a right priority first on his agenda.
Oh, yeah, it's at the top of my list.
Along with that 911 bill we get.
Exactly, the 911 bill.
I think we're the only municipality that pays the 911 fee, aren't we?
It's proportionately driven, I believe.
I think you're right.
I think we're the only one being driven here. I don't think anybody else pays that. Albany County, I don't think anybody pays for it. But I'd have to look into that.
Albany County has their own 911
budget.
Chair.
I apologize, Chair.
We should ask the county to up their recycling game, but other than that, I think we're doing all right. Yes, Council
This
President.
is very quick. I do apologize. The consultant services, I know Councilmember Cummings was talking about a couple of things in there. What exactly is the increase of the 35K?
Because we're adding additional events, we're adding additional services. So right now we've got one electronics event. We had hoped to have a second one this year, but that wasn't in the budget. And so we've had a lot of calls by residents saying they'd love to have a second electronics diversion event, which also is tire diversion and shredding. And then in partnering with the county and other municipalities throughout the county, we're hoping to go up to the 6 events as opposed to the 4 that we had this year. And so our portion of it would be that share of it, and the cost of processing materials, we're hoping to keep as level as possible so that that doesn't cause additional increase.
Okay, any further questions on municipal pickup before we move to bulk?
Chair.
Yes, sorry, Councilmember Chris.
Renee, I know I asked you before on this, and you're talking about adding another electronic pickup, so forth. Are you looking to do it without doing it without the tickets and letting anybody and everybody in Rensselaer County come in, or in City of Troy come into doing it like they do with the county, where they have a day where they drive up and take the stuff out?
For electronics, I think we'd need to have more allotted in the budget to be able to do that. And I also would rather not do that, because if it's anything like our household hazardous, the number of residents from outside the city that are trying to come in as residents and non-taxpayers, I would prefer not to do that, because I don't feel as though that's fair to the residents of Troy, who are taxpayers, to be subsidizing. In just as the last event as an example, there were 8 non-residents out of a medium-sized pool of people who were residents that we would have covered if 2 of my other colleagues hadn't helped sift through that list. So I don't know that I would advise that, and based on our collaboration thus far with the county about hazardous waste, they would prefer to do registrations as well, because then they're able to track it.
Well, again, you would have to show proof that you live in the city when you pull up with your stuff to show your proof of address for a resident. So that is where I'm still asking and still going to be pushing for, instead of doing the raffle or the tickets, asking the people to, when they come up and you set it up, they come up and show proof of residency. And that's very simple to do because, you know, people have something showing their address on it. So again, I'm going to ask to have that looked into. Thank you.
So the registration with that is a little bit more complicated because there are a lot of people that have a Troy city address, but they're not a city taxpayer. And there's also a lot of tenants, for example, that are coming in that aren't going to have the ability to have a tax bill. So it's something that we can certainly discuss, but based on the conversations with the county thus far, they were seeming like they were more interested in having registration done.
Okay.
Chair.
Let's turn to page
Chair.
205. Oh, sorry, Councilman Gully.
I'm very embarrassed. I know this probably got talked about, and I probably just zoned out with all the conversations going on because I can only take so much. But I'm in line 103 overtime, going from 12,500 to 87,000. Could I just hear the reason for that one more time? If it was discussed?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. But I will go over it because I like you.
Thank you. I apologize.
I'm just teasing with you, Jim.
Does that mean I get a bigger?
Of course, just for you.
I'm sorry.
So it's an addition of household hazardous waste events, additional diversion events, and additional e-waste events. And so we've been having, like, for example, this year, 4 household hazardous waste days. But the way that it was budgeted, it starts eating away at other lines instead of it being separated out in an overtime line. And so the whole idea is to accurately account for the fact that we know that weekends are going to be overtime, not part of a permanent salary. And separating it out and making sure that it's accounted for accurately and appropriately is what we're attempting to do by having the 103 carry the expenses that are associated with that.
And do we get some sort of funding for that, for doing this work? Like doing the grant funding?
No, a lot of it, no, not on that, because we're collecting our own cans on Saturday, so all of the municipal routes downtown that are getting done that day, any of the events that we're having that day. So because most residents aren't available on a Monday through Friday, having a large-scale community event usually can only be done on a Saturday. And so we're taking into account that Saturday is time and a half and accurately trying to account for that being in municipal because it's not for individual residents. And so that's why we put it within the municipal budget.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Would it have been better instead of calling it overtime? Wouldn't it have been better to put it into a line? It was special events. I mean, I'm just thinking overtime makes it seem different than we're trying to actually.
Well, some of it is special events and some of it is a municipal collection. So I would defer to Andy's expertise and wisdom on where that should be accounted for. I am perfectly happy to put it wherever y'all tell me it should go.
All right, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
He's talking about the overtime. Just to clarify, I just want Andy to realize, because he stepped out, so they're talking about the difference between regular overtime for municipal pickup, like the Saturday routes, versus special event overtime that are driven on Saturdays, like the hazardous waste days, and how, if there's a way to separate that out so that we know one is event driven and one is just municipal pickup driven.
It's something we can look into. It's going to derive back to payroll code. It's something I can discuss with I can discuss it with the payroll department to see what the options are to track it.
Chair.
Thank you, Andy.
Chair.
Yes. Councilmember Ashman Grayson.
Andy, if it's listed as overtime, isn't that misleading? Shouldn't it have its own line if it's really for an event and not?
But it is overtime because we have to pay the staff.
So it's overtime for staff, not for the event. It's okay. All right. I misunderstood. Thank you.
Great.
Chair?
Yes, Council President Mantillo.
Yep. Listen, I think we all want the events, want to obviously provide more opportunities for hazardous waste, et cetera. But I mean, this is going up substantially, Renee. I mean, you're talking, we were at, oh my gosh, I'm looking, let's see, we were at $4,000. Then in 2020, we were up to 90. And then the mayor recommended 99.5 in 2021. And it looks like it was 105. So we added to that. And now we're going up to 140. I really thought that there were more grants available. And I know we're probably trying to capture them, but the shared services, I mean, it just seems like a lot of money with all the grant funding out there. So are we for sure certain that we're tapping into the grant monies out there?
100% sure. I read the grants, and so with the number of papers that I go through, absolutely 100%. So we will get rebated. So yes, it looks like a very large number, but the portion of it that's hazardous waste, we get 50% back on. And so it has to be accounted for in the budget for us to be able to cover that. That's one piece of it. And we're increasing the number of collection events, which would thusly increase the amount that we would have to have as that spend. And then additionally, I know I've seen a whole lot less tires around the city. People were paying to drop off their tires, and that comes back in as revenue as well at the events. But we have to be able to budget for it as a spend before we get the revenues back.
Right, I get that. So Andy, where is it in the revenues over on 188? Where are you capturing our revenues in terms of some of the monies that we're capturing?
CL 88,033.89 state aid.
Okay, so the state grants, so we're getting 123 state grants. All right, so out of the 140.
A portion of that,
no, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So a portion of that is on the municipal. So I'm going to say probably about 50 or 60 of that is on the municipal because it's for the household hazardous. So of this, you could already take that amount off the top. And then the balance of it, mine and Naomi's positions are 50% grant funded. So there's a portion of that that's also allocated to 8189.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any further questions about municipal pickup? Okay, we'll move to bulk pickup. We've talked about this a bit already. It is on page 206.
Okay, so on page 206, line 101 is strictly due to contractual changes. 103 is to fund bulk pickup on weekends, which we did several times this year to help us catch up when there weren't enough bulk pickups done during the week. Small tools and equipment, line 302. That is for the Arlo mobile cameras, for the annual fee that we pay on those. I'm sorry, I hope I said 302 on that, because 402 is postage. We had to do a transfer this year because it was underfunded in that account for the number of bulk billings that went out. The tipping fees, 405, we are hoping to divert much more bulk to have it not be part of the trash stream and have it go back into the community. 409, consultant services, is for our portion of the compost pilot, as well as other objectives that we're using to reach out on to increase our community presence with the diversion programs. That should be it on bulk.
Chair?
Yes, Council President Mantillo.
Yep. Could you go back, Renee, to the tipping fees? I apologize, I didn't hear all of that. You had said something about you hope that, because obviously you're estimating them to go down.
Yes, and so the goal is, so one of the things that we were not able to do going into 2020 that we had started working on in 2019 was collaborating with the off-campus units of students that are, so the landlords are having city collections for students that are living off campus. And so let's say you're a landlord for a house on 15th Street. And so the whole idea we had talked about and started trying to implement in 2019 was to collaborate with the colleges and have an end-of-year clean out for their off-campus students, because our teams get very, very burdened by the quantity of materials that were getting put out then. And some of the sanitation employees were saying there's good stuff that the students are putting out and their landlords are paying the trash fee, but at the same time, the bulk fees sometimes are getting paid by the landlord, sometimes weren't, and it's materials that can get recovered. So that was one thing that we are going to be planning on adding. I've just spoken to Capital Region Furniture Bank, and the 2019 small pilot we did was with Troy Area United Ministries. The two of them collaborate. So that's one way we're hoping to do diversion. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Jim and I had spoken, and we had been hoping to do for this year a large-scale diversion event in the Berg, where people were able to bring the materials that were able to be recovered, whether it's a couch or durable medical goods, and all those items coming out of the bulk stream would start to debulk our trash. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess. So the tipping fees you're looking at going down, and the bulk pickup you're looking to estimate at 200K. Want to correlate those numbers for me? Is it just getting late and I'm not grasping? So you're saying,
No.
Okay, so you're saying we're going to pay tipping fees 70K here. I gotta tell you, the bulk pickup, I totally disagree how it's working now, but yet we're saying that the 240 is going down. I guess, Andy, what do we have to date on bulk pickup?
For the tipping fees,
Tipping fees and the revenues.
tipping fees as of today are at $69,808. And then the bulk pickup is going to be part of the analysis I sent hopefully on Friday that Councilmember Ash McPherson requested.
Okay. Okay, and Renee, I think you wanted to end your thought.
I'm sorry? I didn't hear you.
Oh, are you done?
Yeah, that was it. We had finished the bulk.
Okay.
Unless there are other questions.
Okay, yep, consultant services, you said you want to spend 25K to educate folks? Please tell me that's not the case.
No, so part of that is our portion of the compost pilot, which is 75% funded by the USDA grant we received. So that's a portion of that. The balance of consultant services on that are also, if there are other expenses that are associated with the rollout of the program that are unanticipated, because there are fees in a brand new program that are like this that we cannot necessarily capture accurately in the rollout of the program. So with USDA, basically what their recommendation was is make sure that you're capturing everything that you are budgeting for, and then have a small amount of overage so that if there are unplanned expenses, that is estimated in with it.
So this includes our match to the USDA? I thought we already did that for this year. No.
No, this is USDA, the grant extent that starts in 2021, goes into 2022 through most of 2023.
Right, but this is
So
2022.
Right, and so what I'm saying is the amount that we've allocated to it now is for 75 people that have just started out in the program. The program is going to expand in size, and it's going to go to 125, and then before the end of the 2022 calendar year, it's going to go to 250. And so the recommendation that USDA had made is make sure that you've got a small amount allocated to the side in case there are unexpected, unanticipated expenses.
I think
that's what we have done.
I'd like to see your breakdown of the 25. I think
Absolutely.
25 for that is high. Because in the USDA grant, refresh my memory, how much was it for?
It was for $88,000, and the largest chunk of it was toward next year. And then there was, I have to review my numbers, but there was very little of it allocated to 2021 because we're only 2 months. We are a full year next year, but part of the 250, which is going to expand into the 2023 calendar year, has to be accounted for in the 2022 calendar year. Because that larger number in the pilot is fourth quarter of 2022, as well as first 3 quarters of 2023.
Okay, yeah, I definitely would like to see a breakdown of the 25K.
Absolutely. Yep.
Do you need these before Monday's report?
Certain things, obviously I'll need, I would say at least within a week. The chair is doing the report, so that's totally on him. For I think us and me, I just need to know, because obviously when we look at some of the amendments that we're going to propose, I just need to ensure that we're moving forward appropriately.
They're supposed to be due on Monday.
Okay, great.
When are I'm just trying to make sure because we have tomorrow as a day off, obviously. When is the council send the changes to the budget to the city, to the administration? I thought that was Monday in my head.
We actually don't sit down with our amendments till the following week, but the reports from the committees are due on Monday, correct? That's the reports though from the committees.
So the reports don't include the amendments. We do that on the fly on the following Tuesday.
Well, not so much on the fly. We did send ours a couple days prior, so Andy could work out some numbers, et cetera. And, I think we sent them maybe a day or 2 ahead. I mean, it's a tight time frame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll try to make sure we get some of this stuff over to you ahead of time.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions on bulk pickup? I guess my only question was why the compost pilot is within bulk pickup instead of municipal or residential.
It's not a municipal program. It's a residential program, but it's a pilot. so we didn't want to, it's not necessarily attributable to the fee because it's grant funded, so we put it under the bulk pickup.
Because it's not all residents, it's just a small group of residents.
Right. I guess that's sort of my point is that this ends up going into the math of the fee calculation.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Okay, that's all right. We'll talk. We'll I guess broader composting initiatives or leaf pickup, etc. Does that come out of this line as well? Is that right?
I'm sorry, broader?
Is the leaf litter collection and yard waste collection come out of this line as well?
No, that comes out of municipal because that really is for all residents.
Okay.
But
All right.
because it's a municipal service, that's where it lands there.
Okay, we'll move to special recycling.
Chair, I apologize. One, I promise, last question. Any proposals to increase anything in the bulk pickup? I'm talking the individual items, et cetera. There is no proposals to do that, correct?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. Do you mean the items that I reviewed or additional items to that?
Not in the budget. The bulk, the fees that folks pay for. We're not changing any of the fee schedule, correct? I'm not saying
that I
we,
know of.
is the administration.
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Question? On to special recycling. On page 210.
Okay, so the 101 line, the differential is partially contractual and partially because Naomi will be here a full year in 2022. Overtime is no change. 303, other materials and supplies. Badges and event supplies, we've had a lot of event supplies that we've had to continue replacing. What we're hoping to do with the $500 is have more permanent supplies. We started investing in that this year, but we want to make sure that we're having reusable materials for that so we're not constantly replacing items. 402, the postage line is an increase due to the fact that we have senior and other residents that don't use the internet that are asking for materials to be printed and sent. And the send cost on that, we want to make sure is calculated accurately. Anything in the 400 lines is also going to be 50% grant funded. So that's reflected in the grant numbers that you had seen earlier. So printing and advertising, that has stayed steady. We're really maxing out and trying to get as much bang for the buck as we can on not having to print, but doing more with advertising so that we are not wasting materials. The other two training items have stayed the same. We are doing a great deal of community outreach and training, and we're continuing to hope to do the same. So I believe there are not any other changes in, nope, no other changes in 8189.
Okay, so just to clarify, as opposed to most departments where the training line is for training your own staff, are you saying that these training lines are public training?
Both. So the 410 line is professional education, and that is not just for myself, but that's also for Naomi and for Tom. We've recently, as of this afternoon, just got back from a conference, and that allows us to really stay on top of the information of what's going on. Just as an example, we had conversations with the Ithaca Reuse Center folks. They've been doing it for 16 years, and wonderful wisdom that they're able to share and be able to save the expenses of us having to do a lot of that investigating work. So that's dollars really well spent. The reason it's separated out is so that you can see that that's one impact of professional education, and the other is the community outreach and education.
So the 410-001 is what exactly?
Community. That's the community. So anything that we're doing out in community is going to be reflected there. And anything that we're doing for professional education is just the 410 line. And again, all of those 400 lines are 50% funded.
The Recollect app in this as well?
That isn't, because that's captured by the Rubens Foundation grant. There is a small portion of it that remains that is covered by the DEC grant. So I believe that 5,500 is attributable to the Rubens Foundation, and the balance of it is split between the city and DEC.
Okay, great. I mean, I'll just say, I said this in a private email, but I'm very impressed with the app. I think it provides a really useful resource for residents in finding ways to recycle various things. I think what's really important is that we get the word out about it. From the numbers you sent me, it sounds like the word is getting out, and a lot of residents are signing up, but there's going to be a lot of folks left behind if we're just relying on word of mouth there. Do you have plans for, some kind of I know we had talked in the past about like a door hanger or other direct communication with residents about the availability of that resource?
We've thought about that and talked about that with the door hanger, and in some of the neighborhoods, there's been some interest. We're also trying to not put a whole lot of paper out there in that type of way, because then we find them flying around the neighborhoods, except for if people are only knocking at doors and leaving them that way. What we've found really successful is bringing those materials to the community meetings. So anytime we're going to a neighborhood meeting, and when we've tabled, which we're doing about once a month at the farmers market, Naomi has the information that can be QR code scanned, and then we also have the flyers to be able to hand out that way. So we're trying to do it in as many ways as possible. Additionally, Naomi is posting it on Facebook, and we are hoping next year to also have presence on other media platforms.
Okay, I mean, that's all good, but and certainly it's helpful to have those core groups of folks who are involved in neighborhood associations and who follow us on Facebook be highly informed and have this as a resource. But my sense is that, if we're gonna really have the impact it could, it needs to get to folks who are not the people who are coming to neighborhood association meetings. So is there a strategy to sort of go through the neighborhood association meetings out to their surrounding communities? It seems like that would have to be more explicit, bringing materials and running campaigns with those neighborhood association meeting groups to inform their neighbors.
Yes, we will do that. And as well, we've been having a conversation with Troy Drug Free Coalition, and they're interested in collaborating with us as well. So we're also willing to meet with additional community groups, not just the neighborhood meetings. And so if council has recommendations on where it would be most effective for us to spend that time, we're very, very willing to do that, and we welcome that opportunity.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, certainly we've talked about going through the schools as much as possible as a great way to get the word out. I know you know that. And then
so Anasha, addressing that, we have been having conversations, which we started late in 2020 remotely, started having conversations again this year. Troy Prep, New Visions, Russell Sage, RPI are all helping with the messaging and working with interns that are, of course, at no charge, but they're able to get credit hours, has really helped us to spread that message. We'll continue to use those resources. And part of what we're also developing that will be shared, hopefully both on our website and through Recollect, will be curricula that schools are going to be able to use as well. So we definitely want to leverage the experience of working with the students. So thank you.
Good to hear. Thank you. And I guess the core question for the budget is, does the Rubin Foundation have in their budget for you, or the DEC existing grant have funding for that kind of outreach on the Recollect program, or do we need to add that to the printing, advertising, and our postage sections here.
No, this year it'll be covered for this year meaning 2022 will be covered. In 2023, we would have to revert back to the city paying a slightly larger portion because it's still going to be 50% grant funded by DEC because it's considered education and outreach.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ashby.
Thank you. Quick question. The line 3040056 vehicle expense, what's the vehicle expense in this?
Based off of the information from the fuel master that
So there's nobody using
I'm
a
receiving.
vehicle? There's nobody using a vehicle? This is just,
That's the recycling vehicle portion, not our, like, I
that's what
don't
I'm
use
asking.
any vehicle.
that's what I'm
They're a
asking.
city
What is
vehicle.
that? It's a city vehicle. Okay, that's what I was asking what this was. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Chair?
Yeah, just sorry, I'm confused. So that's the actual recycling trucks, or that's because there's no way that's the recycling. That must be like reimbursing you for miles, or do you use the city cars sometimes?
No, that is for city trucks that are doing routes that's the allocation that comes into that account. I don't know.
I'm so confused.
Gotta be on the ticket.
I'm not looking at you.
That's gotta be the tickets that are coming in on it, and there's an allocation.
So Fuel Master is the fuel system that's at the DPW garage, and every department has a code that they input when they get fuel. So according to the allocations that we have, the amounts in the fund and in the budget are what are allocated towards that department by the codes that are given at the pump.
So it must
who's
be
in
that
the vehicle?
trash codes are being used for recycling pickup.
Yes.
Which honestly, it seems to me that it could probably be caught underneath a different, like maybe they just added another number or something, especially if they're switched drivers because of challenges, but that's what's allocated. It's all within the sanitation fund as a whole. It doesn't get leveraged in the general fund.
Okay. I don't know, maybe Andy could take a deeper dive into that, because certainly, the trash trucks cost $62,000 to operate, and obviously there's a lot more of them, but
Well, larger.
And they're bigger, they're heavier. We could also make sure that we can have Tom and Rusty verify with the drivers of the recycling trucks to make sure that they're using the appropriate code as well.
Well, and then we may also want to decide that because this is materials handling, not materials management, do we want to move that line item elsewhere?
Oh, that's it. Let's see if they're using the code.
This could also be dump bodies.
Yeah, smaller trucks.
Yeah.
We'll get a breakdown on the code.
okay, thank you. Did you have a follow-up, Councilmember Ashby Pearson?
No, I was just
Yep, we'll
confused
add it.
trying to figure out who was doing what with the vehicle. I didn't understand that, but thank you.
Council President Mantello?
Yep. I apologize. I had to quickly boot for 3 minutes, and of course, it was right during the permanent and OT salaries. I was trying to multitask, so the new position was funded, I believe, what was it, half funded? So I take it no more funding for that, and now this is the full funding for the new position from last year?
If I understand your question correctly, Naomi started in July, and so she's 50% funded for this year. Next year, she'd be 50% funded for the full year, but we also have to take into account that she'll have a full year salary. So is that your question?
That is my question. So I got you. So it essentially was 25% of this year. Next year it'll be the full 50, correct?
I'm not.
Well,
she's working a full
50%
year.
of July to December. I get it. I get
Yes,
it. So,
yes.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so bloop, 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 I apologize. So let's see, her salary, gotcha, is 40. And the OT, the 2,500, did you use that this year?
We used a portion of it, and what we are trying to do is minimize the amount of it we're using and try and do comp time instead. But again, I don't know how that's going to look for either of us for next year. I'd rather account for it because we're doing a lot of weekend events between farmers market, usually once a month, hazardous waste days, adding additional community events, and making sure we're appropriately staffed. One of the biggest problems I've seen inside of other communities is when one person's at an event, if they're talking to somebody and somebody else comes up to a table, to not have it adequately staffed turns people away, and then they're not interested in participating. So making sure that we're adequately staffed and able to attend as many of the city events as possible.
Thanks.
Do you tap into the Solid Waste Advisory Board for volunteers for those events as well?
So
Right.
we have just started to, for example, for the Osgood meeting that we went to, the follow-up to that was doing cleanups. And instead of us getting paid overtime for participating in cleanups, we had two of our solid waste advisory members that were participating in that in our stead. We have had some discussions about solid waste advisory board members helping to table at the farmers market, but we're also trying to make sure that the information being represented is specifically what the administration and the council wants represented. And so we're dipping our toe into that very carefully in terms of what the information is that's going to be shared out. So that's a consideration that we just started making late this summer, and we've been in discussions with the Solid Waste Advisory Board about that.
Okay, thank you. Councilman McPherson?
Yep.
Renee, you mentioned that you're doing education at the farmer's market. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct.
So,
And the neighborhood groups.
what is the amount of residents are at the farmer's market that you're really reaching? Do you have an idea?
It has varied from event to event, and the more social media that Naomi is posting, the more information is getting shared out on Recollect, the attendance bumps up on that. So it hasn't been a specific or consistent amount, just the same as at the neighborhood meetings. But I will tell you, things like the recycling bins, having them to hand out to residents so that they don't have to come to DPW, don't have to have it dropped off, don't have to come to the city hall, has been super valuable both at the farmer's market and at the neighborhood meetings. And it's an opportunity for people to stop by and ask questions.
At the farmer's market, so you're handing out recycling bins?
Yep, somebody has to give proof of their residency for that. I've been a whole lot less concerned.
Let me just ask you, if you're having them give you proof of residency, how do you know it's the same accuracy? Because you said to me earlier, you didn't want to have any type of things because people don't give you the correct accuracy of an address. So how are you doing that at a farmer's market?
That's a very fair question, and I'm a lot less likely to be worried about it for $5.72 than I am for an average of $110 per person.
And also keep in
You
mind,
may not
Kim,
be
that we
worrying
actually
about it,
picked.
but those are taxpayer dollars that I'm worrying about. So you may not worry about it, but I am.
Kim, also keep in mind that the residents that have the Troy recycling bin are getting picked up by Troy collection. It's not like they're bringing material into us to drop off. We're actually going to their house. So a Brunswick resident wouldn't ask for a Troy recycling bin for us to go to Brunswick to pick it up.
No, but some people might just take the bin. That's why I'm asking, how are you verifying that they are definitely residents of the city of Troy? And if she's not concerned over $5 and something from taxpayers' dollars, I am.
I understand that, and that's not what she's saying, Kim. And it was a touche question on your part, and kudos to you. You won that one.
Thank you all.
I'll give you that one.
That was fun. Let's move on. Any further questions on special recycling?
Council member or chair.
Yeah.
I recall last year, Renee, there was substantial money put in for the Alamo. You had talked about certain chemicals, I believe, a consultant that had to come in. Can you refresh my memory, and is that reallocated this year somewhere? There was money in a consultant. And I mean, I'll look through my notes last year, but I know there was substantial, I want to say like it was a new line, Andy might remember, and we questioned it and we were told this was for the Alamo and that we had to hire someone to get it prepared, etc.
Oh, yes.
It was 2 years ago.
So 2 years ago and into last year, that was to be able to open the facility. So we had to get it up to the specifications that DEC requires of us.
Right.
That's special services. So that's very different than the than the consultant services we're doing now. It's not the same.
Okay, but
this is for people.
Go ahead.
So one was to prepare the facility, the other is materials handling. So I think that's the question you're answering or asking, yes. But I'm not positive.
Okay, yes.
So any facility upgrades are in the bonding, in the capital plan.
Right, I know that the Alamo's in the capital plan, but there's not additional money to, we obviously are okay with the grounds itself. You had said that there was the DEC, obviously DEC requirements, I recall that, and so that we're done with that. Like, don't we have to monitor that yearly, report it yearly? Where is that?
Yes, that's something that I report on and that I aggregate all the information. So like what you were asking for before about data aggregation, I have to have that on an annual basis for the DEC. So all that's accounted for. And I gather that information from all the vendors that I work with throughout the year.
Wait. So I think we're talking about two separate things.
Correct.
No, I think we're talking about two separate things. I think what Council President is talking about is a couple of years ago, we actually had a cleanup that we had to do. Right. Remember the oil cleanup that we had to do? And then we cleaned that up. We got it all removed. That's when we did all the work. We brought the gravel in and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then the material reporting that you're talking about is on all the other stuff, correct?
Right. Correct.
So they're two very separate.
Right.
So Council President, what you're talking about is done and over with.
Thank you.
Then the other stuff is the stuff that we are going forward with.
Very good.
So one is the setup and the preparation. Yeah.
So we have no more soil requirement reportings or anything like that to DEC. That's my question. The soil itself.
Not for that site.
Gotcha.
Not for that site.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And I did have one more quick question. I apologize, Chair. The training, I believe you're putting in 10. I might have missed that also. How much did you use this year, and what training are you looking for 10 for next year? I mean, it's a lot of money for training.
That's 3 of us or more for the training, and that is for a minimum of 1, because this year was kind of an anomaly because the in-person events were, this is the first in-person event that we were able to do. There was a solid waste conference that we would have attended in May, but it was remote. So the remote cost was a whole lot less expensive, but it's not as enriching as being on site for the event. Most conferences are going back to in-person next year, and so we want to make sure to completely cover for that, and that is a 50% reimbursement from the DEC.
That's just the 250, the 2,500 though, right? I think you said the 10K was
Right.
Was
The
totally
10K was, sorry, that's all the community engagement and outreach, and that's also 50% grant funded.
So the 10K is 50% grant funded and the 25K earlier. So you're looking at 35K, and how much of that is reimbursed? Because this is for education also.
Right, so there's two different pockets that is coming out of. One is USDA and one is DEC. And so they're not one and the same, and they're handled very differently, and they're two grant reports. They're two separate projects too.
What is the actual money from this 410-01, the training? Where does that money go?
Right.
So that goes to fund any of the outreach that we're doing, any of the community engagement that we're doing, any of the expenses that are associated with that.
Like printing advertising or additional staffing or?
So for example, in the 2022 calendar year, one of the things that is partially funded by the USDA grant, but that DEC suggested that they will assist with if we write it into the DEC grant, is to have the master composter do sessions with us. There's been a lot of community interest in that because there were people that weren't able to get in the pilot because of the size of the pilot. And so in being able to offer that in community, we have to be able to pay that consultant, and that will be covered also by DEC. I believe that was either 4,500 or 5,500 of that, and that is open to everyone in community, and that's spread over 6 events. And so based on single events, it was, I want to say between 600 and 750 per event for a master composter from our community to be offering up those events.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on special recycling before we move on? Going once. Okay. The last 3 line items, workers' comp, bonds and bans. Are there any questions on those or notes that Andy? All right, I guess any of you.
Jared, what's the page?
So there's 3 line items. Workers' comp is on 213, and then the next couple pages past that. I don't think there will be any questions on these line items.
Here I do.
Yeah.
Andy, can you just, on 215, can you just tell me what the garbage fund bond is again? You got it for line?
That is for I can tell you exactly if I have 1 second, please.
Take your time. That's the code 6.
Yes,
And
the principal 9710, right? Page 215?
Yeah, code 6.
Okay. Code 6 is the principal. Code 7 is the interest for a sanitation packer truck that was purchased 2019.
A sanitation what?
Packer truck.
Oh, okay, sorry.
A garbage truck, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know what
Very
it
formal
was.
names.
That's all right. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, Council President Mantello.
Thank you. Real quick, Andy, the bans on 217, you're proposing almost doubling it. What's that for?
Stands on 217. The 38,330. If you go to, so the 38,339 for principal is representative of the mandatory minimum paydowns in 2022, and then the interest is the pro rata portion owed by the garbage fund of the two issuances.
What were the two issuances? Refresh my memory.
So we have two we have two debt issuances annually. One is at the end of February, or at the end of January. The second is at the end of July. Oh, that sheet. So the bands outstanding for the garbage fund, there is one bond anticipation note for a claw truck from the 2019 garbage fund capital plan that has been purchased, I believe. And then the 2020 garbage fund capital plan, which was for a variety of different vehicles, including a mini dump truck, two garbage trucks, and another claw truck.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions on that? And then we'll return to the calculation on page 187. The moment we've all been waiting for. So we've gone through the overall appropriations and the revenue sources. The unit calculation, we touched on that briefly. Just to confirm, that total estimated units, is that an addition of all residential units in the city, plus all fair share bin count, plus all commercial bin count, equals that total estimated units. And then the exempt evaluations, that's both through folks within an alternative hauler and enhanced star. And that gives us the net
yes,
tax.
And then there's other minor,
The vacant building.
The vacant building, yes.
Yeah.
So it's the total units less the total adjustments. Total unit count minus total adjustment count plus the number of fair share units. The total adjustments are made up of a variety of different things, principally private collection and enhanced star.
Okay.
Chair?
Yes, President Antello.
Yep, thank you. So last year we were looking at 19,208. Year before that, 19,516. And now we're looking 18,685. Last year, it looks like 16,912 households out of that. And you're going to guess the number for to date, correct, Andy? And then
yeah, I don't expect much movement from 15,705. I just want to verify it.
Okay.
And obviously provide the most up-to-date number.
Okay. And then the exempt vals, it looks like last year was at 2296 and we went up 700 exempt vals this year to 2980. Do we know the spike in that?
I'm pulling last year's budget worksheets right now to compare. So last year's, on 2021's budget documents you just referenced, it was 19,208 less 2296 in exemptions. The jump is entirely because of private collection. 2021, that was estimated, the 2021 budget document had an assumption of 742 units would have their bill adjusted off because of private collection. In 2022's budget, that number is 1,341, representing an increase of 599 units.
So 600 units almost. A lot.
So that's all within the less exempt evaluations. What accounts for the drop from 19,208 to 18,685? Or am I wrong?
That's the actual number of so
also keep in mind that last year we started the Fair Share program in 2020. So in 2020, when we went to start the Fair Share program, that was a brand new program, and we truly conservatively estimated, like more conservative than probably India's, conservatively estimated that. And then we had COVID hit, and that also affected our numbers for 2021 as well. So that is also part of the adjustment of the number of units as well too, was that new program, and then the actualization of what that program produced. So
Okay.
there's a multitude of factors. I don't want to blame it just on people going to private, because I know that's going to be the talking point of what everybody's going to grab a hold of. It's not necessarily just for people going to private collection. Yes, we're having that because we're having this rash of private collection entities that are coming in offering free bins and free collection for a limited time only with fine print in the details. We know we have that going on. We're very aware of it. We know that that's not sustainable on their company's part. But at the same time, it's not just that that's driving the reduction of units. It's also exemptions. It's also the actual utilization of programs that people are taking in, starting up new programs, and then projecting them out.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Would it be possible to send us a break out of that total estimated units? I guess that's part of what maybe something Andy was already doing. The break or someone. The break of how many are units outside of fair share, how many are fair share bin counts, and how many are commercial bin counts?
I don't have a breakdown of residential versus commercial. I just look at the total units. Total units on the fee, total units on fair share.
Okay, then maybe that goes back to Renee. Renee, are you able to break out?
I don't have a way of assessing which they are. That's not something that I would know how to do or have the capacity to do. I really don't know where that would start, quite honestly.
I mean,
we have it as a billable unit acts as a billable unit, and so that's part of the conversation with having a barrel system is if somebody is utilizing 2 barrels right now, that's easy to track with fair share. There was somebody on a block right next door to City Hall just about that they were paying for 2 units of trash, and I became aware that they had a whole lot more that they were producing and sticking in other cans, and so now they're paying for 6 units of fair share. And so part of the whole idea with the barrels is that people are getting right sized for the number of bins that they're using. So I don't want to diminish the importance of knowing that. I just don't know how we would do that. I don't know that I have knowledge of any software that I'd be able to use to do that. So it's not that I'm not willing, I just don't know what kind of process we'd use to do it.
okay. If it's all in the same bucket in your system, I guess that's the best we can get. Any further questions on this calculation?
I just have a question. You keep on talking about fair share, and I don't have any information. Can somebody email me information on fair share and how that works downtown? I'd appreciate it.
Sure thing. Sure.
You remember that was introduced to capture the multiple pickups per week, so that we are billing them per bin, per multiple pickups for the week, to be able to make sure that we are accommodating that extra pickup.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you all for sticking in with us. And for
Can you hold on 1 second, Anasha? Anasha, can you hold on 1 second? I'm gonna ask Andy a question.
Yeah.
Chairman Cummings, I'd also like to make a comment, even though I'm not on the committee.
That would be welcome.
Thanks.
So I just want to make sure to reiterate what Andy had said a little subtly earlier, is that this fee is the actual cost that is derived from our code in order how to determine the fee. This is the revenue and the expenses divided out by the number of units. This does not have any one-shots in it, like every other year that we've had this fee in it. It does not accommodate any other items and borrowing from other funds. So I just want to make sure that that is clear. We all heard, actually a couple of us heard from the OSC this week that is not something that they like to see us do, is offset these with one-shots that can't be recurring costs or expenses or revenues. So I just want to make sure that that was stated and that that's a true fee and a true cost to the fund. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll look forward to adding some one-shots in our amendments. No. Okay.
It's not sustainable for the fund. You want to talk about what Council President is talking about, is it's not sustainable to the fund. If we continue to drive one-shot revenues to pay for recurring expenses, the gap every single year and the increase every single year is going to get wider and broader, and all we're going to do is continue to battle on an annual basis about this. It's literally the definition of insanity. What we do as two independent bodies of this city on an annual basis is to recapture this. We complain about it and we fight about it and then we bicker about it. We throw one-shots on it and then it just doubles down the following year. We have to this is the cost of garbage. It is by far the cheapest cost of garbage of any municipality that is paying for that is charging for garbage services, as well as the private collections. I would garner any municipality would love to have a $65 dump ton cost at any moment in time, because I can tell you right now, County Waste is chomping at the bit to get us at $75 or $80 or even $90 a ton, including the cost of the recycling fees. Nobody does garbage cheaper than us. Yes, you can have a beef with it. You may think that it's not synergy and it's not good and it's not whatever. Nobody's going to do it cheaper than us. And I will tell you that time and time again. So I just want to make sure that statement's out there. I know it was done subtly, but sometimes subtle isn't heard. So Councilman Zaluski, you had just something you wanted to say?
Actually, the chair should be recognizing Councilmember Zaluski.
I did recognize Councilman Zaluski, and he is welcome to make his statement.
Thank you. Yes, obviously I'm not on the committee, but I just wanted to say, first of all, to the staff members that are here tonight, Chuck, Tom, and Renee, thank you for everything that you do. I know I send a lot of requests your way, and you're among the most responsive people in the city. So thank you for that. I wanted to just point out, I feel bad about what's happened tonight because, it's easy to pick on a department where we see what they do day in and day out. DPW, sanitation, every week we see them on our streets, like they're there. And it's far more difficult. Actually, let me say it this way. We're going on 3.5 hours for this meeting tonight regarding one part of general services, which is sanitation. It's a $5 million budget, and we've hammered these folks tonight. Last night, we spent 2.5 hours on police and fire. It's $45 million of our budget, and we didn't hammer them, and we didn't scrutinize them. And we didn't say, oh, we want to start implementing a checklist and we want you to report to us on everything that you're doing. I just feel I feel like what we've done tonight is not good. It's not correct. And it doesn't set a good precedent, especially when we're looking at another budget last night that's 9 times the size of what we're talking about this evening. So I just wanted to say, thank you for sitting through all of this. We appreciate what you do. You guys are among the most responsive in the city, and and very creative. Renee, I have to say, the amount of programs that you've implemented since you started is unbelievable. Your creativity is great. I know you take abuse because you get really excited over stuff that you find innovative, and that some of us do find it very innovative. And it's difficult to sell to the entire, to our, all of our residents. But we'll keep working on that, and we'll work together to make these things happen. But it would be really welcome to see this amount of scrutiny applied to a budget that's 9 times the size of the budget of these folks that we're looking at tonight. That's what I had to say. Thank you.
Chair.
I thought you might have a follow-up to that. Yes.
Yeah, first of all, the whole sanitation department, Councilmember Zaluski, and you should be aware of this, it was a temporary fee, a temporary department. The department is still new. We're still getting new information. It continues to increase. And you're right, for a $5 million budget that started out maybe $2 to $3 million and has risen maybe $1.5 million over the last 2.5 years. Yeah, that's a problem. So it is a big deal, and it is a big deal for us because it was, at least for me, taken out of our everyday taxes, and now it's its own separate department. So it's very new. It continues to grow. The scrutiny, at least by me, will continue. And quite frankly, the finance meeting, which is one department, ended up being close to 4 hours. We scrutinized it inside and out, went line by line. And when you talk about public safety, everyone had the opportunity last night. And yes, their budget is almost half of our budget, but we know that budget inside and out, and we should know it inside and out because it's been around since the inception of the city budget. To me, this is new. It continues to grow. The training grows. The consultants grow. The manpower continues to grow. The fees continue to grow. So yeah, do I have a problem with a temporary fee that has now become permanent and continues to go up and up and up every year, but the service is not increased? That's a problem. And I'm going to continue to scrutinize it line by line by line, just like every other department. Some departments are smaller, some departments have been around since the inception. This is a very new department with a new account and new monies that are put aside. So I do have a problem with it. I'll continue scrutinizing it. However, the folks in the department, they're working their buns off. I said that earlier. Chuck is super responsive. Renee, anything I've asked for has been wonderful. The creativity, excellent. But guess what? Somehow we have to get a grip on why this continues to grow and grow and grow. It has to change. The fees can't keep going up. 4 years from now, we're going to be talking about 300. And all of a sudden, the deputy mayor at that time is going to pop in and say, yeah, but you're getting it so much cheaper and every other municipality would love that. No, we're Troy. I care about Troy. I care about the fee going from temporary to up and up and up. And we said at that time, It was going to go this way, and the prediction is true today. I'm sorry. It's been a long night. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, any further questions or statements? Going once, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion, Councilman Gully, second, Councilwoman McDermott. All in favor?
Sorry, Eileen.
Aye.